Of high pressure, meaning clear skies, and those winds continuing to ease down. So light winds, clear skies this time of night means a frost, a widespread frost forming already, and temperatures are only going to continue to fall. There'll be some fog patches forming as well, of course, parts of the Midlands and southern England too, but the main thing will be those spots. So a very cold start to Thursday, and then things turn wet across Northern Ireland, some snow on the hills, and then as this wet weather arrives across Scotland, some significant snow likely on the higher routes here, also across parts of Northern England. Some of the higher routes not very pleasant for a time through the course of tomorrow afternoon. We'll turn back to rain as we go through the day. Mostly rain at low levels and across the southwest, where it will actually eventually get to double figures. But East Anglia in the southeast staying cold, but largely dry until the rain pushes in here late afternoon into the evening. It's going to be followed by showers, and those showers turning wintry once more. So we do have another Met Office yellow warning for snow and ice from Thursday evening into Friday morning across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The snow could really start to build up here, and as temperatures won't be as low, but still getting close to freezing, could lead to some icy conditions, particularly for Friday morning's commute as the showers continue to come in. Mostly rain at low levels and on the coast, but certainly over any kind of smallish hills, we will see some snow building up during Friday morning in those showers. Scattering of showers elsewhere, but for many central and eastern parts, Friday dry and bright with sunny spells, but it will be cold. Temperatures again below average and feeling colder with the wind.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Hello there, it's just gone 6 o'clock. It is Thursday the 6th of January. You're watching Breakfast on GB News on your TV and on your radio. Don't forget you can of course tune in on DAB+. Coming up this morning, Novak Djokovic has had his visa revoked by the Australian government following a backlash over being allowed to play in the Australian Open despite not being vaccinated. Has justice been served? Staffing crisis as health leaders say more than 20 trusts are on the highest level of alert. This, as the Prime Minister says, Plan B rules will continue until at least January the 26th. But those thinking of a winter break have been given a boost as travel restrictions are eased. We'll be speaking to the Transport Secretary later on in the programme. Do email us any questions you might have for Grant Shapps at gbnews@gbnews.uk. Well, hello there and thank you for joining me. We're going to start this morning by taking a look through your Thursday morning front pages. Here is the Daily Telegraph. It's looking at the Colston statue verdict, which took place in Bristol yesterday afternoon. The 4 defendants were found not guilty of committing a crime. It's also the lead for The Guardian. They're focusing on that verdict, saying the jury made a huge step in getting the UK to face up to its colonial past. This is the front cover for The Express as well. They're asking where will it all end, referring to that statue case. Lots of questions about whether or not it will allow people to vandalise statues with impunity. The Daily Mirror, meanwhile, is reporting that a perfect storm of pressure on the NHS frontline is building as staff shortages grow. It's a boost for holidays in The Times as the confusing system of travel testing is scrapped in a surprise move across England yesterday. Lift off Britain, reads the Daily Mail, with reports the 7-day isolation period may be reduced to 5. The Eye simply reads, deported after Novak Djokovic's Australian visa was revoked as he arrived in Melbourne. Baroness Bra in cop quiz is the front for The Sun. Michelle Mone is quizzed by police over claims she sent a racist text message. And lastly, the Daily Star reports that 750,000 people have now signed a petition asking for Tony Blair's knighthood to be revoked. OK, our top story this morning, and the Prime Minister says that Plan B COVID rules will continue for 3 weeks, despite more than 20 NHS trusts declaring critical incidents, with hospital admissions doubling every 9 days. But from tomorrow, fully vaccinated travellers coming to England will no longer have to take a test before they travel. And from Sunday, day 2 PCR tests will be replaced by lateral flows. Well, joining me to discuss all of this is the political commentator and regular on GB News, Richard Taylor. A very good morning to you. How are you? Lovely to see you. Look,
good morning, Isabel. It's absolutely... Go on, sorry, I was going to say it's absolutely freezing cold in Wales, but I've got my GB News cup with a coffee, 6 a.m. This is how special you are, right? And yes, these restrictions, well, you got yours as well. Good morning, GB News viewers. Yes, great to be with you this morning.
OK, well, look, shall we start then with the Prime Minister saying we're going to stick with the plan? And actually, he was quite widely praised for this from perhaps some unexpected quarters. The former Prime Minister and sort of arch rival Theresa May saying that it was great that he'd held his nerve. Even Jeremy Hunt, who was his rival for the leadership, coming out and saying sometimes it's actually harder to do nothing. Do you think the Prime Minister's got this right?
I think on this occasion, and it's very rare you hear me say this about the Prime Minister, I think he has, because there's been a lot of pressure on his own benches, of course, Isabel, and a rebellion that we saw from previous restrictions that were brought in on vaccine passports, for example, was a perfect opportunity for him to really recapture some of those Conservative members. And I think he's played a political card here very, very well, knowing that if he did impose further restrictions there in England, then of course there would have been a huge reaction to that. And I think he knew that. And of course, the big emphasis on the government at the moment is the booster rollout because of hospitalizations, according to Boris yesterday. And I think that the wider picture, I'm sure we'll come to it a bit later this morning on the programme, is the fact that the cost of living in the UK is going to hurt millions of people around the country. And I think that was the full-on attack by the deputy leader of the Labour Party yesterday, Angela Rayner, because whilst we're talking about Boris and restrictions, we're realising come April, we're going to be facing a hike in our taxes. The cost of living is going to double. People are not going to be afford their electric, their gas. And I think this is a storm in a teacup, really, because I think what's going to happen is Boris Johnson's premiership is going to be tested even more when we look at what's happening with inflation, the cost of living, and millions of people are feeling this. And when it starts hitting people's pockets, Isabel, that's when people start to take notice.
It's so interesting because you identify that the Conservative backbenchers have been appeased by the Prime Minister's approach to not bringing in more restrictions. They've been, calmed with all of that because, of course, there are huge consequences for the economy when restrictions are brought in. But at the same time, we're seeing this really interesting development that Angela Rayner, standing in yesterday for Sir Keir Starmer, has identified a kind of thing in common with the Tory backbenchers, which is this concern, as you describe, about the cost of living. Now we've got a cabinet minister, a prominent cabinet minister, coming out on one of the front pages this morning. It's being reported that Jacob Rees-Mogg is saying that they should be scrapping the increase in national insurance in April for exactly those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the national insurance contributions. Don't forget, it's the VAT that people are paying on their fuel costs. There's a green levy, about 25% people are paying in their bills for this green agenda that Boris Johnson seems hooked on actually achieving. And the idea that somehow yeah, I absolutely do. I think, look, we got natural gas in this country, Isabel. You know, we're importing gas at the cost that's absolutely absurd. It's only going to get worse relying on places like Russia. And we got natural gas here, but because of eco warriors who don't want us fracking, we're not able to exploit our own gas reserves. I mean, it's just crazy. And this is going to affect, you know, hard-working people. I was out last night in my local here, and I was speaking to a couple of people, and they said, Rich, I don't know how we're going to cope. They're looking at a £600, some people £1,200 a year extra in their expenditure this year. And some families, most families that I know in working class areas where I live, they're on the breadline, and this is going to push them into food poverty. And I think Angela Rayner yesterday made a very important point to Boris, and I think, you know, people were talking about how wonderful Boris performed at the dispatch box. Well, I'd like to point out he wasn't as wonderful as people thought he was. I thought Angela Rayner really highlighted some very serious issues, and I'm not a big Labour supporter, as many of your viewers will know, but, you know, I have to call it as I see it. And I think what she said yesterday highlighted that this Prime Minister, unfortunately now, is a high-taxing government. We've seen a hike in the taxes, as you know. The cost of living's gone through the roof, not just with gas and electric in households, but the price of fuel pumps as well. And it's because it's unregulated. It's astronomical. And I'm afraid that what we're going to see is a winter of discontent, as we were in the middle of now here, certainly in Wales in January. And people are really, really worried, very concerned how they're going to pay their bills. And they're having to make decisions on whether or not to put the heating on or to feed their children. And that is quite serious.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable, quite frankly, in 2022 that we're talking in those terms, and that is a message we are getting loud and clear here at GB News as well. Just want to end on a bit of a high. We're talking about the winter of discontent, but those who do want to go and get a bit of a sunshine kick, obviously Grant Shapps making a bit more of a surprise change to all the travel rules. We're freer than we've been in some time. Do you think it's going to bring a much-needed boost to the travel industry that we...
Well, I think you know my position on this. I don't think we're as free as we think we are, because once again, the changes to the travel might be good for those who are vaccinated, but not for those who are unvaccinated. And that's their choice. You know, so people who choose not to have a medical intervention are being discriminated against. That's, you know, that's how I'm reading into that. But of course, it is good news.
Let's talk about Novak Djokovic then. Whilst we're discussing that issue.
Well, yeah, I mean... Well, yeah, he's well within his right to make that decision. But if the rules in Australia are that you have to present your status vaccinated, then he has to abide by those rules. So I have no issue with Australia doing that. You know, it's simple for someone like myself or anybody. I think if the rules of any country apply where you have to have a certain vaccine, not just this one, to enter their country, then you just don't go. It's as simple as that. But I think he's done the right thing in standing up, because if he doesn't want to show his medical status, then good on him. Well done.
Well, I believe he's taking legal action against Scott Morrison, or ScoMo, the Australian Prime Minister, to try and challenge that decision, which shows a sort of level of preferential treatment he expects to get. But listen, always lovely to talk to you, Richard Taylor. I wish you both the best. I hope it warms up for you where you are this morning.
Take care as well. Speak to you soon. Bye.
OK, time now to bring you up to date on our headlines this morning. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers want a retrial after a juror told the media he was a victim of sexual abuse. Asked to be identified by his first and middle name, Scotty David said he'd convinced other jurors that a victim's imperfect memory doesn't mean the abuse didn't happen. Maxwell was convicted last week of grooming underage girls to be abused by Jeffrey Epstein. A jury's decision to clear 4 people of criminal damage after they pulled down the statue of a slave trader has been described as a milestone in Britain, coming to terms with its history. The bronze memorial of Edward Colston was rolled into the water during a Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol in June 2020. 3 men and a woman were acquitted following an 11-day trial. Electric vehicle sales soared last year, but the overall market struggled to recover from the pandemic. Data from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders shows that more electric cars were registered in 2021 than in the previous 5 years combined. An acute shortage of computer chips, though, means that just 1.6 million new cars were registered in the UK last year. That is the second worst figure in nearly 3 decades. The Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Novak Djokovic did not have a medical exemption to visit the country. That's after the Australian Border Force confirmed his visa application's been cancelled and that he will be deported. An injunction request, though, against the move is being heard in court in the next hour, and we'll keep you posted on that story. Now, yesterday, Gloria Di Piero brought us her exclusive interview with Stephen Timms. He was the MP, of course, that was stabbed at a constituency surgery 12 years ago. Well, today, Gloria will be talking to the Conservative MP, Colonel Bob Stewart. He spoke movingly about his experiences of serving in Northern Ireland. Let's take a little short clip and a preview. Some viewers, however, may find his account upsetting.
It was the most traumatic experience of my life when I was 32 years old, and 17 people were killed. 6 of them were my soldiers, 35 of my company of 120 were wounded, and I was the incident commander, and a girl died in my arms. She was 18 and she'd lost both legs and an arm.
And you can see the full interview here on GB News at around 12:30 today. Now, Donald Trump is back in the headlines after he cancelled a speech on the anniversary of the Capitol Hill riot. So what caused the U-turn? We'll be back with the answer. First, here's your forecast.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain, courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The Isabel squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption. We're turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning, as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farrar, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Welcome back to Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel. The time is 6:16. You can watch us on TV and listen to us on your radio. Well, let's move on to this story from the United States today. It's marking its one-year anniversary to the day since the Capitol Hill riots. The world was, of course, stunned when supporters of Donald Trump stormed the US Capitol building with ease, attempting to stop Joe Biden from officially winning the presidential election. Well, our national reporter Paul Hawkins has more.
Some called it one of America's darkest days. Others saw it as a demonstration of US democracy. One protester shot dead, 138 officers injured as thousands of angry Donald Trump supporters tried to storm the heart of American democracy, the Capitol building. The authorities and the world taken completely by surprise, overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of protesters. Their goal, to stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory. They were angry, they felt cheated, like Donald Trump, who spoke to them just 30 minutes before they breached police lines at the Capitol building.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
2 investigations are still ongoing. One by the FBI has so far charged more than 700 people. Another by a congressional committee made up of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans has spoken to more than 250 people. They're trying to answer questions like how involved the White House was in organising the rallies. Did they know it would turn violent? And why did it take 2.5 hours for President Trump to tell his supporters to stop rioting?
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.
Most are cooperating with the congressional investigation, but a handful of those closest to Donald Trump are not, citing executive privilege.
The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was Election Day. And before and after. That was, to me, the insurrection. And the January 6th was a protest. But if you would have looked at the crowds, the size, nobody wants to talk about that. I believe it was the biggest, and most people, and I've spoken to very big crowds. I have never spoken in front of a crowd that size. Nobody ever talks about that. And then, unfortunately, some bad things happened, but also the other side had some very bad things happen.
A recent ABC Ipsos poll suggests 52% of Republican voters believe the rioters were actually protecting American democracy. While a Massachusetts University Amherst poll released just after Christmas suggests more than a third of Americans believe President Biden's victory was illegitimate. Expect to hear more of that when Donald Trump holds a rally in Arizona a week on Saturday instead of today's cancelled press conference. President Biden, meanwhile, will speak to the nation on a day Democrats are calling for reflection, remembrance and recommitment from the American people. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
Well, we can cross now to Washington, D.C. and speak with Sebastian Gorka. He's a strategic advisor to Donald Trump. A very good morning to you. It's morning here. I'm not sure what the time is in D.C., but thank you for joining us. Look, just give us a sense, first of all, of what the mood is in your camp today as the nation approaches this really difficult anniversary. Do you view it as America's darkest hour?
Well, we view it as hooliganism occurred. We don't know exactly who was behind it on the day. We know the president, I was there in the front row at the Ellipse outside the White House listening to my former boss who said we're going to march peacefully and patriotically to Capitol Hill as your package demonstrated.
But did you also hear him saying we're going to fight like hell?
Yeah, which is what politicians do.
Okay.
That's what politicians do.
But there was lots
Whether
of
you're
criticism
Labour,
of
whether
the
you're
language Donald
Conservative,
Trump used, which obviously led to
is common.
investigations.
Is common. Whether you're Labour, whether you're Conservative, whether you're a Lib Dem, to say you're going to fight is a political statement that every party uses. When he said expressly, peacefully and patriotically, that's what he said. What happened? We need to find out. But at the end of the day, it is an utter outrage, as your package demonstrated. 700 people arrested, some of them grandmothers who have been put in solitary confinement for over a year without access to even an arraignment hearing, is the persecution of people for political purposes, especially when the left talks of insurrection. Not one individual out of the 700, Isabel, not one has been charged with insurrection. And the only person to die that day was a 14-year veteran of the Air Force, a woman who was unarmed, who was gunned down by a police officer. So let's get to the bottom of what really happened, but let's not have double standards. We witnessed a year of riots across America, more than 40 people killed by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. No investigations of that, no committees in Congress investigating Black Lives Matter, but now we have to have 4 hours investigated for months on end. The double standards are truly out of control.
Look, Sebastian, I mean, what you're describing, you know, whichever side of the political divide you are, is a country that is, frankly, more divided than ever. I was reading one article on New Year's Day talking about how America is closer to civil war than it has been since the last civil war. That's a real possibility for this nation, and that people are complacent, that they think that because it's a very wealthy country that this could never happen again, because people are angry. You talk about these rallies in the course of the last year. We know Donald Trump still very much believes that the election was stolen from him. I was also reading 71% of Republican voters agree with him that Biden is there illegitimately. What does this mean for the future of the states? Can you reconcile and heal, or does it just mean Donald Trump's going to be back in and the left are going to be devastated for another 4 or 5 years?
Well, he's running. I can assure you that he will be running, and God willing, if we can stop election fraud, he'll be back in the White House for 2024. Look, as the child of those who suffered under communist oppression, my father was arrested, tortured and imprisoned by communist secret police. I like to have countries where there is political disagreement. The only countries in the world where you're not allowed to disagree, where you're only allowed to have one opinion, are dictatorships. So the idea that we're divided, I think that's okay. However, we can't have the normalization of political violence. And as we have seen, there is one Democrat party there is one party in America that has normalized violence, and it is the Democrats, with their praising of Black Lives Matter, with their support for Antifa, with people like the Vice President, Kamala Harris, helping to raise money to bail people who are in prison.
I think that's quite hard to claim that that's only come from the Democrats.
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. When you have a Vice President who helped raise money to bail out arsonists from Black Lives Matter protests, that's normalization of violence. We don't agree with that. We want to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th. When it comes to elections, I agree with my former boss. It's very simple. We want every legal vote to be counted. Not every vote, every legal vote. And that's all we've ever wanted.
You've made your point. I just want to pick up because, Sebastian, you know, you're accusing the left of using and normalising violence. But quite frankly, there has to be a level of responsibility from the right for unsubstantiated and frankly false claims that the election was rigged. It's never ever been proved, despite the allegations that have been made for years now, hence why it went through the Electoral College, and this happened on the 6th of January. We saw Biden being put in office, and that narrative incited the violence that we saw a year ago today. You can't claim that the normalisation of violence has only come from the left when everybody saw that with their own eyes, Donald Trump saying, "I love you," and encouraging them to go up to Congress, and the way that we saw unfolding.
Yeah,
such a shocking manner.
You played it in the package yourself, Isabel. I mean, don't gainsay your own package. He said, march peacefully. You cannot twist that into anything else. There is one side there's no political leader, not Trump, not Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate. There's no political leader with an R after his name who said use violence. Like Maxine Waters, one of the most senior Democrats on the House did, like the former Attorney General of Obama, who said in front of a camera, when the Republicans are down, you kick them. Like Joe Biden on the campaign trail, who said, if I meet Trump, behind the bike sheds at school, I would have punched him in the face. That's the man who is currently the president. You'll never find a snippet like that. You'll never find a soundbite. So I have to correct you. The violence is being normalized by the left, and
so Sebastian Gorka,
just inexcusable.
You've told me this morning that Donald Trump is going to run. Are we going to see a softer version of him then? What kind of Trump can we expect to see?
I don't think a man in his mid-70s is going to change. You're going to see the same old man who came here to break China in the swamp and to fix the swamp. The swamp is full of swamp creatures, of vested interests, of lobby groups. He came here to drain it of those vested interests and to represent Americans. So no, I don't think Donald Trump is changing in his 70s.
Well, Sebastian Gorka, it's been very interesting to talk to you. I have a feeling we'll be speaking to lots more of you over the coming months and years. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Isabel.
Happy New Year. Now stay tuned our way. Eamonn will be here in just a moment. We'll be asking just how bad things are for the NHS following a surge in hospital admissions. See you in a moment.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good morning. How's your day going? It's 6:30. It is Thursday, the 6th of January. Eamonn and Isabel on GB News Breakfast on TV and on radio.
So if you're watching us before work, don't forget you can tune in on your TV and take us with you wherever you're going.
Right. Coming up this morning, Novak Djokovic has his visa revoked by the Australian government following a backlash over being allowed to play in the Open despite not being vaccinated. So, has justice been served up? What's your view on this?
Staffing crisis. As health leaders say, more than 20 trusts are on the highest level of alert. This as the Prime Minister says Plan B rules will continue until at least January the 26th.
But if you're thinking of a winter break, you may have a bit of a boost as travel restrictions are eased. We're going to be speaking to the Transport Secretary later on in the programme. So email us your questions, your concerns. Would you now have the confidence to book a holiday for the summer? GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Now, New Year's resolutions. We're only 6 days into the year. We thought it'd be fun this morning to ask if you've already gone back on your New Year's resolutions. Have you made any?
Well, I'm in bed by 6 o'clock at night.
I know
After
that's
only
not a fact.
drinking vegetable juice, no late night meals, right? Up early, a jog before I come in for breakfast in the morning for the show. So none of that's happened. None of that has happened at all.
Dear.
But it's been busy. I mean, I'd give the excuse that everybody else will give here that you just are so busy.
Yeah.
Do you know what rules my life? My phone.
Yeah, mine too.
I'm on the phone morning, noon and night, personally, professionally, whatever. And although it saves us time, and Zoom saves us time from getting, to meetings in London or out of London or whatever, we fill the time with other things.
I know.
So it's got to be about time, I think. Our Yorkshire and Humber reporter, Kevin Larkin, well, he's been out and about. He's in Wakefield, OK? And he's asking folk there how they're doing with their resolutions.
Every day's a new start for me, but I'm out on a walk. I should be at work. I'm on my lunch break and I'm just having a walk around the block so that I can get plenty of steps in, so that I can make the most of my Fitbit that on my watch that my kids bought me for Christmas. So that's the plan. So normally just eat my sandwiches at lunchtime and chill, but I'm on a nice long walk around the block.
Don't see the point in making them. Don't make them. Used to do. I only break them anyway, so now we don't bother. We don't make them in the first place.
But as I think if at first you don't succeed, try.
Is that your motto for New Year's resolutions? All right, so I'll call you at 6 this evening and I'll make sure you're in your gym jams with your hot chocolate.
Yeah, going to bed. I think your life is wasted in bed, really.
I love bed.
Isn't it?
I love bed.
That's because you don't watch football, for instance.
That's
so how
true.
can you watch a match?
It's just I've got kids and I'm exhausted, is why.
Yeah.
My New Year's resolution wasn't a resolution; it was dry January, and I think that's enough of a self-punishment. So I've stuck to it so far, despite
What a miserable idea that is.
I know.
I mean, I don't drink, so I'm safe from that. But you find that unbelievable.
I didn't really drink until I had children. Now I need a little wine to get me through the evening.
I personally, from experience, I'm going to be controversial here, I think that women rely more on alcohol than men.
I probably agree, yeah.
There's a plethora of laughter in my ear here from women. But, you don't hear men coming home and saying, I'm going to pour myself a whiskey, I'm going to have 2 cans of beer or whatever, do you?
Well, plenty of guys I know will come home, go straight to the fridge and crack open a beer.
Would your hubby do that?
No, he's more of a social drinker.
So you're left to drink on your own?
Yeah, well, it's mother's ruin, isn't it?
Yeah, my wife, she basically, her lips, she salivates.
Oh, I've been dreaming about rosé for days since January.
Have you?
Yeah, just dream.
Well, don't do it.
Well, it's healthy.
January's miserable.
Think it's a really healthy.
January is miserable. It's miserable enough without all that.
I know.
Sort of
well, lots of people have been saying that. Dina's been in touch. Never make any resolutions. They're broken by the 2nd of January. Waste of time.
No, Dina, I don't agree. I think you should make the resolution. I think you should plan for the year ahead. And you say, it's like, always with me, it's like technology. I sort of think, keep in there. Don't let technology get ahead of you that you're regarded as, prehistoric.
Yeah, you've always got to evolve. You've always got to change.
I do think that. So I think you can generally say this year I'm going to get to grips with A, B or C. I mean, look at my body, for instance. I mean, I've taken to the gym and I have... What's this laughter going on again?
I'm not commenting. This is dangerous territory.
I am a svelte, fit man for 42 years of age. I think I look very well for that.
You look very well,
yes.
I can confirm. Look, Brian, this one's for you, Eamonn. He says, I make the same New Year's resolution every year, not to make promises I can't keep.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's it. Talking about promises you can't keep, that gets us to politicians, which we'll be talking about throughout the programme today. So we've got Grant Shapps, we've got him, and we've got Jonathan Ashworth as well, haven't we?
From Labour, yeah.
So, you're very welcome to get in touch, with where is it? GBViews at gbnews.uk, or you tweet. That's the email address, or you can tweet at GBNews. It's funny, the one place you want the sign, you go to look at it and it's turned in the opposite direction. But, however...
You've got to memorise it. GBViews at GBNews, it's very memorable.
I can't even say it, never mind
memorise it. I know,
memorise
it's a tongue twister.
But, the lovely thing is, for us, it's lovely to think that there are actually people out there watching us. It is the best compliment ever.
Yeah.
That if you're there... And one of the things we want to do, of course, is not that you just tweet us or email us. We actually want to see you in vision. We want you on your phones at home or you know, in your back garden, outside your front door, wherever it happens to be. But, you know, this is your news, your views. If it's important to you, it's important to us.
Yeah,
So,
you know what, if you've got your phone, why don't you just record a little message and we can play it to Grant Shapps if it's a good one, only if it's a good one, and we'll have a little look. Let us know if you can do that and let us know your thoughts, because, of course, he changed the travel rules yesterday. But the big headline that came out of yesterday, of course, Parliament was back. We had PMQs and we also had some statements in the Commons. And the Prime Minister came out and said Plan B COVID rules will continue for 3 weeks, despite more than 20 NHS trusts declaring critical incidents.
I mean, that is quite scary. I think that's quite scary that we've got that situation. This is hospitals saying, guys, stay away from us because we basically can't cope. And that is because admissions, basically due to COVID, are doubling every 9 days.
But from tomorrow, it's good news for fully vaccinated travellers coming into England. They'll no longer have to take a test before they travel, and they won't have to do the 2-day PCR tests afterwards. They're going to be replaced by lateral flows. That's from Sunday.
Well, just hold that thought, because I want to speak to Azim Majid. He is a professor. He's a professor of primary care and public health at Imperial College, which is a very important title to have, a man of much knowledge here. Professor, the thing is, for me, I'm a bit worried about sitting on a plane with people who could be full of germs or full of COVID and passing it on to me. It sort of seems that, you know, without that test of getting on the plane, is that not leaving us more exposed?
It does leave us a bit more exposed, as you mentioned, Eamonn. If you're on a plane or an airport and people have not been tested, some of those people may not, may be unvaccinated, may be infected, and could infect others. So there is a slight increase in risk for people in airports and on planes from scrapping PCR tests before travel.
Yeah, slight increase, you say?
I think a slight increase. The evidence shows that on planes, because of their filtration systems and ventilation, that does tend to reduce the risk. So the risk probably is more in the airport itself, so rather than on the plane, because the planes generally have good, ventilation and filtration, which tends to.
So basically, what you're saying, I mean, the travel industry, they have been begging for a relaxation of rules. This has to be good news for them, with a minimal increase of risk to the rest of us.
That's right. So these kind of measures work best when infection rates are low in the UK. What we've got now are very high rates in the UK. So testing people coming into the UK won't have much effect on our own infection numbers. So I think this is good news for for the travel sector, which has suffered very badly over the past 2 years. And now we've got such high rates in the UK. Testing travellers coming here isn't going to be so effective in stopping our rates going up.
Professor Majid, I just want to ask your opinion on whether or not you think we could be back to normal in 3 weeks. This is what's being put on the headline of the Daily Mail. It's the Prime Minister being very optimistic. But given the state of our hospitals at the moment and the fact that we're seeing admissions doubling every 9 days, do you think that's realistic?
I think that's very unlikely. I think we'll see people carrying on with wearing face masks, working from home, and other measures like testing going on for some time to come. We also need to push our vaccination program as well more. That's worked very well in keeping down the number of serious cases and deaths. And essentially, we keep on, boosting people, getting people to come forward if they've not been vaccinated. But I think the Prime Minister is being, too optimistic in thinking we can end these measures in around 3 weeks' time. I think it'll carry on for some time to come, perhaps even, into March, possibly, depending on the case numbers in the UK.
At the moment, Professor, is your glass half full or half empty?
I would say it's half full. So we are under a lot of strain, not just the NHS, but also areas like retail, public transport, other parts of the economy because of people being off work sick. But we are now seeing, some positive signs. So in London, for example, which is the first area to be hit by the Omicron wave in the UK, we're seeing signs that rates are now stabilising. And so we might then therefore see a reduction in pressures in hospitals in the next couple of weeks. And if that is then if that then occurs elsewhere in the UK, things may start to improve later this month or early next month elsewhere as well. So I'm I would say a glass half full person rather than a glass half empty person at this moment.
Well, that's good to hear and a good way to start the day, Professor. Very good talking to you. You were listening and watching, Professor. Not at all, thank you. That was Professor Azim Majid there, who's a Professor of Primary Care and Public Health, Imperial College, London. So it's interesting, and if you're looking at us and you're saying, why are these two so close together, whatever it is. We test every day.
We do.
We have things stuck in all sorts of orifices. Which
Just our noses.
But
Just for clarification.
I might be more, precise than you then, and more dedicated.
Oh, really? What, you're doing your throat as well?
Getting everything, just making sure nothing's got in anywhere. Anyway, I hope you're well. I hope you're keeping well. That is the main thing.
It is like a mini celebration every time you get a negative result. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Better than the alternative.
That's so true. Look, let's take a look at what else is making the headlines this morning. Jacob Rees-Mogg, he's reportedly urging the Chancellor to ditch a planned hike in national insurance. It's on the front of the Daily Telegraph this morning. They say the Commons leader has told Rishi Sunak it must be scrapped to try and stem the rising cost of living crisis. The policy was announced in September to cover an overhaul of social care and to help the NHS through the coronavirus pandemic.
The RAC claims petrol retailers are ripping you off. Well, what's new there? Saying drivers were overcharged £5 million a day in December.
The motoring organisation says wholesale price cuts weren't passed on, with unleaded falling by just 2 pence a litre when it should have come down by 12 pence.
The Grammy Awards, which would be the 64th, have been postponed because of the pandemic. The event, which is considered music's biggest night, was scheduled to take place at the end of January, January the 31st, in Los Angeles.
Organisers there say uncertainty surrounding the Omicron variant means there are just simply too many risks.
And a commemorative coin has been unveiled by the Royal Mint ahead of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee, marking 70 years on the throne. It depicts the Queen on horseback and was designed by artist John Bergdahl. It's the first collectible 50p to celebrate a royal event. Just wondered, do you collect coins? Just asking you at home, you know, if
in
you
my
collect
piggy
coins.
bank.
When I was as a kid, we actually used to have pennies and things, and you would get Brasso and you would rub them to make them all clean and shiny.
I put them in a can of Coke. Yeah, and then they clean
That's
up
an
really
interesting
nice.
point there. If you collect coins, let us know what your collection is and what's the most value to you. Is it sentimental value or is it monetary? Prime Minister says the government will step in to reduce the soaring cost of energy bills, but has ruled out cutting VAT.
Prices will rise again on April the 1st. Currently, the VAT rate on energy bills is 5%.
Deputy Labour leader Angela Rayner has accused the Prime Minister of incompetence. Talks are expected to happen next week. Phone networks, Vodafone and EE, have confirmed they will be delaying the introduction of roaming charges around Europe. Those charges are what your phone network charge you for using calls, texts and data whilst in another country. Before the UK left the EU, this would be concluded in your contract rather than as an additional charge. Big story today. Novak Djokovic has had his visa revoked by the Australian government and a letter has been issued for his deportation. The world #1 tennis player was held at Melbourne Airport for several hours with the Australian Border Force confirming he failed to provide appropriate evidence to meet the country's entry requirements. Djokovic has refused to reveal whether he has had a COVID vaccine or not. Right, to talk about that, we've got Kate Hoey, Baroness Kate Hoey. Very good to see you. And you're sporty. You were very sporty in your time. Yes, both of them. You hear us laugh before you hear him. Chris Sakabusi. Well, you know, as two people with interest in sport, this Djokovic news, what do you think of this?
Well, it's a very important test case, I think, Eamonn. Look, I mean, I retired 30 years ago, but clearly, as a sportsman, it was impressed upon me that I was responsible for what's in my body, and I'm responsible for taking care of my body. And what we have here is we have a sports star who's private doctor, and I'm assuming his sports team's doctor has said to him that for whatever reason he shouldn't take the vaccination, and so he doesn't want to be double vaccinated. Now, he's gone to Australia. The Australian LTA have understood the interaction between their doctors as to why Djokovic doesn't want to do it, and they said, you can play in our tournament. And now the state border have said, no, you can't, you're banned, go back home. Well, okay, this is their ball, they can do that if they want to, but actually what we're now faced with is government intervention on the sporting field.
Yeah, but or you could say, Chris, that you've got the Australian Tennis Association thinking they rule the country. You know, the organisers of the tournament, they want him there.
Of course they do. They want him there, and the sponsors, they do. And you are. And it's lovely what you just said there. You could say. So what you've just shown there is that there are many, many different narratives and many different ways of spinning this story. And what saddens me is the binary positions that people are taking. What you've got is a young man who's fit, he's healthy, and he's not going to spread the virus. And his doctor has told him, sorry, excuse me for that sort of language, but Mr. Djokovic, we understand. And the LTA have understood too. Now, once you start saying, but the man from the government with the whiteboard and the clipboard, he's coming along and he wants to investigate too, and he wants to understand your issues, and he can potentially spread your issues abroad. We're on very dangerous territory.
Well, except I would say it's very dangerous territory. Others, Kate, who may argue that not being vaccinated, being involved in something like this, when the people of Australia have experienced very, very heavy lockdowns.
I think that this is going to be a very interesting case and will be examined by all sorts of people, because the reality is that obviously, I mean, I'm pro-vaccination. I've had anything I can get, I've got.
Yeah.
But there is this issue, and particularly for sports people, and I agree with Chris there about, I remember being, when I was sports minister, the whole issue about drugs and everything that the athlete was putting into their body. There was always this worry that it would lead to some way that would be used as a showing that the athlete had abused the system. I don't know he obviously isn't keen on vaccination, but I would imagine he has some very strong evidence. What I don't understand is why this wasn't sorted out before he got there. To be held for 2 hours and 3 hours. And his father, I think, is saying and the Serbian government has now got involved.
Exactly.
The president has been ringing up. This will become a big case and probably will be used by the genuine anti-vaxxers, as something that they should be, making a huge issue of. I'm sorry, because I think I'd loved him to have won his 21st.
He's a sportsman, and the thing is, look, a chance is gone, and you can never go back and redo it. His chance of being.
But Kate was saying, how did we get to this situation in the first place? How was there such a breakdown in communications? All I'm saying is, do you ever watch a programme called Border Force on Channel 5 or Sky 1 or something it is? And the thing is, if their cameras were there that day, what footage that would make, turning the world's #1 tennis player back at border control.
Absolutely, and then you've got the Prime Minister of Australia. I mean, just coming out with all his gang and being so obstropolous and so bullying. And we're going to chuck you back, and you're going.
They've been pretty nasty about it.
Yeah, and it's just so unbecoming of a man of your station. And so now all of a sudden you've got the Serbian Prime Minister going, well, I'm not quite sure about this. It's just gone way too far.
What I feel sorry for is people in this country who've got relatives in Australia who haven't been able to get in to see their families, their grandchildren. Australia has been very, very over the top, I think. I mean, when we look at how we've handled it here. Anyway.
Well, I think it'll provoke a lot of reaction to this. Give us your views on that. gbviews@gbnews.uk, or that's the email, or you can tweet at gbnews. Now, Kate, energy bills, this is awful, this energy squeeze. I mean, it's just crept up on everyone. Nobody seemed to see this coming, but the whole cost of living for everybody, for all of us, whether you're on low income or high income, and it's going to particularly hit people on low incomes.
Yes, and it's a big story in all the newspapers today, as you would imagine. Lead story even in the Financial Times, which shows that it's quite a serious issue. And the interesting thing about the Financial Times question is we're seeing a little bit of open rebellion within the cabinet, because we've got Rees-Mogg here, apparently, who has said that this, not just the energy bills should be looked at, but the whole question of the tax rise on national insurance that's coming in. And I think we're going to hear an awful lot about the cost of living. The cost of living is going to become that kind of mantra that everyone's going to be talking about. And yesterday, of course, in Prime Minister's questions, which I'm no longer there, so I wasn't there to hear it, but the Labour spokesperson basically said, why were they not cutting VAT, the 5%?
Yeah.
And I thought it was rather ironic because, of course, Labour very strongly opposed Brexit, and we couldn't even be considering cutting VAT.
Because it wouldn't be allowed.
It wouldn't have been allowed. So now we're allowed. I think a lot
We still don't do it.
I know, and this is what I think people are starting to say. Well, hang on, look, what was, we've left the European Union. Let's take advantage of what we can, and this should be something should be cut.
Except the pandemic has to furlough.
It has to be paid.
Has to be paid for.
Yes, but I think there are ways that government could make savings, and I think if you were to ask any of your viewers about giving some ways of making savings in government expenditure, we look at some of the waste that goes on. But it is going to be, it's something that's not going to go away, and the government's going to find it very, very difficult
it affects
for
you all.
people.
Chris, I don't know what you're like, but I have to walk around my house. I would do this anyway. Why are those lights on? Why is that heating up? I seem to be the only person that is aware that this costs money.
Yeah, no, I laugh because I've got a little boy and a little girl. When they come across to stay with me, lights are on absolutely everywhere, and I'm going behind them and thinking, what are you doing, old man? This costs money, this costs money.
Yeah.
And can I afford it? Yes, I can. But it's not, it's costing money and it's doubling. And when they leave, I've got to go in again and turn all the lights off.
They turn them on. If they at least turn them off,
no, they haven't got a clue.
That would be fine.
They haven't got a clue.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when we got electricity first, and my great-aunt would come out and visit us at home, and she would literally turn off the light all the time, and I'd be going out and saying, Mum, Aunt Liza's turned the light off again, and it was one of those things we were brought up to.
Close the door, close the lights.
Were you in a farm or something?
Yes, I was in a farm.
Were you?
Yeah.
Where was your farm?
County Antrim.
My goodness.
Yeah, so
Where?
Where? Quite near 7 Mile Street, actually, where you...
Very good. 7 miles.
Oh, you know what?
Sorry.
No, it's beautiful because Kate, I've known Kate for a long time, and also your Irish accent. When you two guys got talking there, you could really hear this colloquial accent going on. It was amazing.
No, it is amazing. It's a village, actually, where we are. But you're absolutely right. It's amazing to think, because we take so much for granted, and you're actually saying you remember when you first got electricity.
Yes, I do.
It's incredible.
And I think, we'll be going to this now, our young people these days just have, I know there's some terribly poor people and deprived areas and all that, but genuinely, I don't think young people realise just how...
Lucky they are in many ways. I mean, I do think, though, we're going to get to a stage, Chris, where people, they really are choosing between heating and eating.
Well, yeah, and that's an awful decision to have to make. In fact, in the 21st century, on the back of leaving the world that Kate, you and I were born into in the, 50s. Leaving that world and all the opposites that we've experienced, the idea that in the 21st century, that there are people who are going to have to decide whether I eat or heat. Yeah. No, that's an anathema. And one of the questions I would ask is, is means testing something that would be palatable? Could you say under a certain threshold that they would get, I don't know how you do it, but they would get heating subsidised greatly? And would people, like having said about me turning all the lights off, I can afford to heat my house, would someone like me say, I would be prepared to pay a little bit more so they can be... I don't know the answer to that, but, if we are all in this together and this is a real issue, is there a way of doing something like that where some people who can afford to pay the going rate, pay the taxes, so that people who can't get the subsidy?
OK, a good thought. We would love to know your views on all of these things. Please do get in touch with us. How to will come on your screen. And we'd love to hear from you all day. If this is affecting you and if you've got a view on that, GB Views at gbnews.uk. Isabel.
It's 6:54. We're going to take a short break, but come back and join us at 7 o'clock because we were talking about something that's making lots of you angry on Twitter this morning about hospitals. It might be not quite what you were expecting, but first of all, here's your forecast.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain. That courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The Isabel squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption, turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning, as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
We're approaching 7 o'clock on this Thursday morning, Thursday the 6th of January. I tell you that because I think many of us go, what day is it? Where are we at? Whatever, but you are at Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel on GB News, and it is on your TV and your radio.
Yeah, you can find us now on DAB+. So if you are watching us before you go to work or head out on the school run, don't forget, as you leave the house, stick us on your radio. You can take us wherever you go.
Coming up this morning, Novak Djokovic has his visa revoked by the Australian government following a backlash over being allowed to play in the Australian Tennis Open despite not being vaccinated. What do you think on this one? Has justice been served, or has the Australian government been a bit harsh on this one? Should there be exemptions?
Staffing crisis as health leaders say more than 20 trusts are on the highest level of alert. This as the PM says Plan B rules will continue until at least January the 26th.
But those thinking of a winter break have been given a boost as travel restrictions are eased. We're going to be speaking to the Transport Secretary later on in the programme, so you can email us your questions. Love to hear from you. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
So before the break, I mentioned that this morning we're going to be talking about something to do with hospitals that really winds people up, and it might not be what you expect, not waiting times, not having your operations cancelled. It's the cost of hospital parking. It's an ongoing issue, but it's just something that really winds people up.
Yeah, whether you're a patient, whether you're going to visit someone, or whether you actually work there. I mean, what is the better of all of those evils? I suppose you've got to give priority to the people who are there to take the x-rays, take your blood, to work in the place.
But what about those people who aren't just there for, say, giving birth, which is just a 1 or 2 or 3 day thing, but those who are going back for repeat treatment in order to stay alive, whether that's dialysis or cancer treatment? Should they be paying money to park their car in order to get there? The stress of that is so huge for many people.
But I think also as well, so say you're a radiologist,
yeah,
or whatever, and you have an appointment at 9 o'clock for your x-ray. I mean, that radiologist arrives at the car park. There's nowhere to park, and then it costs them. Do we have any idea what it does cost today? Let us know what it costs today, because it will be a lot. It's a lot over a week and whatever. But shouldn't there just be areas of car parks which are just dedicated for staff only?
Well, there are, but quite often they get full. And also they're time specific. So I was reading one account before I went to bed last night, because I knew we were talking about this morning, of a doctor who had worked an extra shift. They were a very senior doctor, saved lives throughout the night, all through the night, worked later, so they exceeded the 12 hours that their permit permitted them to park for, and they got charged a couple of weeks later in the post it came through from the hospital. And it's just no treatment.
Private vulture companies, who are there to make money out of people's misery. It's just not right. It's just not right. You've been having your say, Paul, on Twitter, first of all, and he's saying visitors maybe, patients no, and charging staff is absolutely, utterly abhorrent, he says.
You can't disagree with that, really. This one from Fozzie. In principle, parking should be free at hospital, but limited supply does make this unrealistic. Free car parks result in no spaces because people are not incentivised to make other choices, meaning that those who have no choice but to use the car parks cannot park. I think they just need to build multi-stories at all of these places. Why is it just a single car park? Just stick a multi-story up on there.
Or, I mean, there could be buses running, and I'm sure there are buses, doing regular runs to places. But look, it is an issue. I mean, part of the problem is there are too many cars out there, too many cars on the roads. Rebecca Ashton, Head of Policy and Research at charity IAM, Road Smart, and she joins us now. Rebecca, what's your take on what we've been talking about?
Good morning, both. I think it's a very difficult situation, isn't it? As you said, there is no space in car parks, which causes a problem. Staff certainly need their own car park, and that it does need to, when doctors work over or nurses work over, and that they're working extra shifts, to get a ticket afterwards. There needs to be a lot of leniency here, doesn't there? And unfortunately, when you put parking in the hands of a private company, it does take a lot of extra stress and worry trying to get that ticket perhaps changed or revoked.
You see, Rebecca, I think what you're saying is absolutely right there, and that finding a parking space, we've all done it. We've all been in that panic situation of trying to look for one, and maybe people who are infirmed in some way and they can't walk a long distance or whatever. But I wonder, Rebecca, should providing parking spaces, or as Isabel was saying, a multi-storey, should that be part of the budget included in how we fund the NHS? I mean, should government be taking into account parking needs to happen here for the patients and for the staff?
Well, it's very difficult, isn't it? I think that as long as there's money that's ring fenced and it's not coming from something else, because we wouldn't want money coming from perhaps a doctor or a nurse's wage to subsidise the parking. So as long as it's separate money and it's ring fenced, then yes, it is very difficult. But there are things that can be done in the meantime. So if it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. People know that parking in hospitals is difficult, so they get there early. So they're taking a space for longer than they actually need. So it is a sort of catch-22 as well for people who are visiting or going for their appointment. So I think there are things you can do. If you're visiting somebody, you could perhaps share or meet somewhere else and only take one car in. Obviously, in the pandemic at the moment, things are slightly different. But I do think there are things that people can do. People can be far more courteous to others, make sure that they're parking within the lines. And of course, in some car parks, it's very much a case of there is some free parking, but you've got to read the signs, and the signs aren't always clear. So we do need some really good signs. We need to make sure that people take a means to pay if they do have to pay. They find out from the hospital first what the facilities are, because some people can pay by card, some people pay cash, others you might need an app. So there are different ways that people need to go about, and by finding all this information out first, it can actually take a little bit of the stress out of things for you.
Well, the last time I visited, my mother was admitted to hospital, and it was June last year, and I found just the easiest, most simple way. It's expensive, yeah. It was to use a taxi.
Taxi's a good option.
Just a taxi, and it's fascinating when you arrive at a hospital at the front door, and there's all these people either in dressing gowns, they're all crutches and whatever, and they're all smoking. Everybody's smoking and putting butts. There's just hundreds of butts around.
Yes, the lovely welcome of the cloud of smoke to walk through. Boris vowed to try and deal with this problem for the most vulnerable when he came into office, and he wanted to try and scrap the charges for the sort of infirm that you're describing, Eamonn, that struggled to walk and all the rest of it. But I wonder how important is actually the money raised from this car parking.
Where does it go?
Yeah, well, apparently it goes into frontline services. So, I mean, actually, would we be hurting the NHS if we took away the car parking money?
I'd like to know figures.
50 million it raised last year.
Where did it go? I just think that's there to make you feel bad about things. I mean, I don't believe it. I always just believe, stop the talking and just do it. Do it. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. Do the right thing. This is one of these things that just has to be sorted, and the money has got to come from central government. Find it. That's what I think, Rebecca.
Well, it is a problem, and certainly it needs discussing, and that they can sort things out, because otherwise it's only going to get worse.
OK, thanks very much indeed. You were listening to Rebecca Ashton there. She's the head of policy and research at IAM RoadSmart.
OK, let's bring you up to date with the rest of this morning's news. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers want a retrial after a juror told the media he was a victim of sexual abuse. The juror said he'd convinced other jurors that a victim's imperfect memory doesn't mean the abuse didn't happen. Well, Maxwell was convicted last week of grooming underage girls to be abused by convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
The jury's decision to clear 4 people of criminal damage after they pulled down the statue of a slave trader has been described as a milestone in Britain, coming to terms with its history. The bronze memorial of Edward Colston was rolled into the water during a Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol in June last year. 3 men and a woman were acquitted following an 11-day trial.
Electric vehicle sales soared last year, but the overall market struggled to recover from the pandemic. Data from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders shows that more electric cars were registered in 2021 than in the previous 5 years combined. An acute shortage of computer chips means just 1.6 million new cars were registered in the UK last year. That's the second worst figure in nearly 3 decades.
OK, so here's my problem. No, that's a rocket. Never mind that. I'll come back to that in a second. Here's my problem with electric cars. I don't know what to do. I just don't know. People say this isn't the answer. Hydrogen is the answer. Wait till that comes along. That the technology hasn't been perfected as such. It's a massive expense to buy a car.
Huge expense.
And so if you sort of feel my next car should be electric, and then a lot of people say, well, hold on.
Well, exactly. I mean, the ULEZ charge, the ultra-low emission zone in London's been brought in, encouraging people to get rid of their polluting cars and go electric.
Yeah.
And we've had this exact debate in our household, but we're just waiting until the technology is a bit better. I did see in the papers yesterday that the first electric car to go the length of Britain without having to recharge has just been brought out. But I think it was...
What is it?
I think it was a very expensive brand. From memory, it was a Porsche. Someone will correct me.
Well, here is my nightmare, Isabel.
Yeah.
Right. You head up the M40 and the M6 to Manchester. The match at Old Trafford is going to kick off at 3 p.m, right? And then suddenly you realise I haven't got enough juice or charge to take me there. So you pull into a charging port, petrol station or whatever, and the 3 units or the 6 units are all taken.
Oh.
I can't wait there.
I know.
I can't wait for 45
well,
minutes
also
to charge my car.
it takes a long time to charge.
They're not going to hold the match up for me.
Well, you need a hybrid then, so that when the electric power runs
I need
out...
a helicopter. That's what I need. The Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Novak Djokovic did not have a medical exemption to visit the country.
That's after the Australian Border Force confirmed his visa application has been cancelled and that he'll be deported. An injunction request against the move is being heard in courts as we speak.
The United States is today marking a year to the day since the Capitol Hill riots. The world was stunned when supporters of the then President, Donald Trump, stormed the US Capitol building, attempted to stop Joe Biden from officially winning the presidential election. Our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, has more.
Some called it one of America's darkest days. Others saw it as a demonstration of US democracy. One protester shot dead, 138 officers injured as thousands of angry Donald Trump supporters tried to storm the heart of American democracy, the Capitol building. The authorities and the world taken completely by surprise, overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of protesters. Their goal, to stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory. They were angry, they felt cheated, like Donald Trump, who spoke to them just 30 minutes before they breached police lines at the Capitol building.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
2 investigations are still ongoing. One by the FBI has so far charged more than 700 people. Another by a congressional committee made up of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans has spoken to more than 250 people. They're trying to answer questions like how involved the White House was in organising the rallies. Did they know it would turn violent? And why did it take 2.5 hours for President Trump to tell his supporters to stop rioting?
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.
Most are cooperating with the congressional investigation, but a handful of those closest to Donald Trump are not, citing executive privilege.
The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was Election Day. And before and after. That was, to me, the insurrection. And the January 6th was a protest. But if you would have looked at the crowds, the size, nobody wants to talk about that. I believe it was the biggest and most people, and I've spoken to very big crowds. I have never spoken in front of a crowd that size. Nobody ever talks about that. And then, unfortunately, some bad things happened, but also the other side had some very bad things happen.
A recent ABC Ipsos poll suggests 52% of Republican voters believe the rioters were actually protecting American democracy. While a Massachusetts University Amherst poll released just after Christmas suggests more than a third of Americans believe President Biden's victory was illegitimate. Expect to hear more of that when Donald Trump holds a rally in Arizona a week on Saturday instead of today's cancelled press conference. President Biden, meanwhile, will speak to the nation on a day Democrats are calling for reflection, remembrance and recommitment from the American people. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
we're going to talk more about this. I want to introduce you to a fascinating man. Here he is. He's an author and journalist, Rob Goldstone there. And he's incredible. I mean, he knows the Trumps. He's been up close and personal with the Trumps. And he basically, Rob, you were at the centre of Trump's Russiagate storm for over 2 years. And that led to your book, How an Email Trumped My Life. So you've seen these guys up close and personal. Most politicians would have been absolutely finished by what happened a year ago today. Is he finished?
Well, good morning. Far from being finished, I think Donald Trump seizes on opportunities like this for his next installment. And there's no question in my mind that his next installment is to run in 2024. And he looks at it as the 70+ million patriots, remember he uses that word patriots, that vote for him. He's their president. And when you speak to many of those people, he's still their president. Remember, as candidate Trump, this was the man who said, I could walk down Fifth Avenue in New York, shoot somebody, and not lose a single vote.
Gosh. And how much is he helped in his belief, in his confidence, by how poor Joe Biden has been as a president?
Well, I think it's telling that when he chose to abruptly cancel his press conference, his scheduled press conference today, it was twofold. The first was that the mainstream media was apparently planning to boycott it, not to travel down to Mar-a-Lago in Florida and cover Trump's press conference. As I know firsthand, and so do many people, Trump likes to be liked. He thrives on being hated, but he hates to be ignored. So the idea that he might be talking to himself almost is one part of it. But the major reason he cancelled is that a lot of his closest aides, led by Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, said to him, nothing positive will come from this, from you having this press conference at a time when Joe Biden and the Democrats are faring so badly. Don't do something that will make you potentially look stupid, look wrong, look out of touch. Leave it to them to continue doing that.
You mentioned how President Trump refers to his supporters as patriots. We know that the country is more divided than ever. Do you see the creeping in of the kind of language that some commentators say sort of precede perhaps even a civil war? Could it go that far, or is that overstating
How
it?
divided is the whole country?
Well, I lived up until the pandemic struck, as Eamonn I think knows, I lived in America for over 20 years and worked there. There is no question there are two Americas. And what has disappeared is the gray in between. You're either for him, against him, even though he's not the president anymore. That's still the way people refer to each other, talk to each other. And there's no debate. You can't be for some things, but talk intelligently or even stupidly about other issues. You're for or against. It's very divisive. It's a very angry place. And I say in my book, I've said it many times, I believe Donald Trump got elected because he was a reality show president for a country obsessed with reality shows. He was the perfect person at the perfect time. And to be honest, in my opinion, if COVID hadn't come along and caused all kinds of disruptions and things that nobody, including Donald Trump, could ever have predicted, you would probably still see President Trump as President Trump today. So I am pretty sure that in 2024, the Republican candidate will be Donald John Trump.
Rob Goldstone, fascinating to hear your take on things. You have been up close and personal with the whole family. You know how Donald Trump reacts and how he thinks, and really, really appreciate your insight to things. Good talking to you.
Pleasure. Good morning.
Okay.
Back to domestic politics, and Labour has hit out at the government demanding they help low-income families by removing the 5% VAT rate on energy bills. As the cost of living crisis looks likely to escalate, many families will be worse off facing tax hikes, rising food and energy bills. And that, of course, Isabel, is before the national insurance rise in April.
That's due to come in April. Well, let's speak to the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Jonathan Ashworth. Very good morning to you.
I tell you, Jonathan, first of all, somebody can't afford to put money in the meter wherever you are anyway, because you're in complete darkness. I hope we can at least hear you.
OK, then. So can you see me?
Sort of.
Just about. Yeah.
Just about.
Listen, I was going to start by talking about Angela Rayner yesterday in PMQs. She really went for the government, didn't she, on this cost of living crisis that everyone's predicting for this year, the year of the squeeze, as it's being dubbed. How surprised are you then to see the front of the Telegraph this morning, a cabinet minister now speaking out, suggesting that national insurance is cut, or the idea to increase it in April is shelved to try and tackle the problem?
Well, there's no good cabinet ministers like Jacob Rees-Mogg conveniently briefing newspapers saying they're opposed to this punishing tax rise that's coming for working people. We actually need Boris Johnson's government to not go ahead with that tax rise. Look, we're facing a devastating cost of living crisis. Working people, families, pensioners are going to be really hit by the heating bills going through the roof, the taxes going up, the prices in the shops going up, wages are stagnating, the universal credit is being cut. People are really struggling to make ends meet. And Boris Johnson saying, fears about inflation were unfounded a few weeks ago, or claiming that people are getting £140 a week when that's £140 a year for help with bills, just reveals the extent to which he's totally out of touch with the struggles of hard-working people.
Do you know, Jonathan, I think I can't imagine why anyone would disagree with what you're saying there, and I think this is going to hit everybody. It doesn't matter what you earn, but a disproportionate pressure on the shoulders of low-income families as well. But I've got to say this to you. Nobody ever talks about this, but the furlough has to be paid for. The pandemic has to be paid for. They are literally wetting their pants in government, aren't they? They don't want to be in a situation where they're cutting and they're giving back and they're giving out more and more money. We were talking about hospital parking charges today, which obviously the right thing to do would be to temper those in some way. And I know health has been your brief in the past. But the furlough scheme has to be paid for. How would you pay for it? And obviously you can't pay for it by doing what you want to do at the moment.
Well, you've got to make fair decisions on taxation. That's the difference between our approach and the Tory approach. They're putting up tax on working people with the national insurance rise, which is coming later this year, at a time when working people are really struggling, at a time when wages are going to stagnate, at a time when prices are going up in the shops. And yet, over many years under the Conservatives, the wealthier have had bigger tax cuts, whereas the poorer and the working man and woman have had bigger tax rises disproportionately. So you've got to make different decisions on taxation. Why don't we go after these big, the Amazons, all these big internet companies who've made a fortune? They've made an absolute fortune, particularly through the pandemic, because more and more people have, for understandable reasons, done online shopping. Yet they don't pay fair taxes. So there are things you can do. You can do things in a different way to get that money in, and then you can pay out things in a fairer way. Like you can fund your NHS properly, you can fund your schools properly, and you can give people support. And one of the things we're calling for is to cut the VAT on the gas and the heating bills, because when we know people are going to be paying so much more, we think getting rid of the VAT on the gas and the heating bills will help people in this year of the squeeze.
Well, look, one thing's for sure, if Labour was in power at the moment, a lot more support would be needed, because it's quite clear that if you were in office, we would have had restrictions over the Christmas period. You didn't think Plan B was good enough, and yet here we are hearing widespread praise of the Prime Minister for holding his nerve from people like Theresa May, his predecessor, even Jeremy Hunt, who competed with him for the top job, people who wouldn't necessarily speak out in his defence, saying it's actually quite difficult sometimes to hold your nerve and do nothing. The truth is, that's the opposite of what you'd have done.
Well, I don't think that's true, actually, because Keir Starmer, our leader over was very clear over Christmas that we were not calling for a lockdown circuit break. Look, yes, we did say we needed to continue with the mask wearing, that people should work from home, and we only got those measures through, or Boris Johnson only got those measures through, because Labour MPs supported him, because of course Tory MPs are deserting him left, right and centre. But we never called for further restrictions. We said we needed to make this set of restrictions work. And Keir Starmer did an interview over Christmas where he said, look, Labour's not calling for a circuit break lockdown.
Yeah, hospital admissions rising, infection rates rising. So, you know, you could well feel justified for your stance on that. But let me say this to you, what you're calling for now, and this is, you know, the tax burden on low-income families up by nearly a fifth before these national insurance rises take hold. Surely the Johnson government have got to be sitting and saying, people react when it hits the pound in their pocket. That's when it shows at the polls. That's when they will react. And he's got to be worried about this situation. I mean, out of nothing else but being practical, surely they've got to listen to what you and the opposition parties are saying.
But he could get rid of that VAT on the gas and heating bills now. Yet he's dragging his feet. I mean, don't forget, it was only a few weeks ago that he was saying that the worries about inflation are unfounded, even though it's going to hit, what, 5-6%. The prices in the shops are going up. Yesterday in the House of Commons, he said people are getting £140 a week. They're not. That's £140 across the whole year. He's completely out of touch with the struggles of working people, families and pensioners. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep making the argument to him that you've got to do something to help people, because people are struggling to make ends meet. People are skinned, and people are going to be really clobbered, going to be really hammered with these big Tory tax rises that are coming. That's not fair.
Jonathan, whilst we've got you, Jonathan Ashworth, we've asked people who are watching and listening to us to get in touch with any possible questions for you. Amy's tweeted in, and she wants to ask your views on the levelling up agenda that Boris Johnson's very much touted as his flagship policy. She wants to know, what is Labour doing to increase work opportunities for the former, now disillusioned, Labour constituencies in the north?
Well, you've got to provide people with decent jobs. That means you've got to provide people with decent transport links, because, I mean, I represent the city of Leicester now, but I grew up in the north. I know that the lack of transport links can be a huge barrier to people getting into work, but also I know there's a lot of, and it does tend to be mums, although it doesn't necessarily should be mums, but it does tend to be mums who can't get into work because of the huge childcare costs. You've got to provide people with decent childcare. But I also know that employers, and I talk to firms all the time in my role as Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, think that the job schemes that are in place, the Kickstart scheme it's called, just simply isn't working, because they're not providing them with the young people with the skills and abilities that they need. So we need a job scheme that actually gives people the skills that businesses and firms need and want to fill the vacancies that they're struggling with.
Jonathan Ashworth is the Shadow Secretary for Work and Pensions. Thank you very much indeed for your time and your views, which you will have an opinion on, listening and watching at home. So all of us are going to face tax hikes, rising food prices, energy bills, petrol prices, you know, the utility bills going up. It's pretty scary for the first quarter of the year.
Yeah, I don't know, it was quite foreboding. Did you hear, was it Big Ben dinging all the way through that interview? It was sort of like for whom the bell tolls.
What was it dinging
all
from?
the way through.
Early,
well, it was sort of carried on the whole way through the interview.
It's only 7:27.
It's very early, old Big Ben, or maybe he's having
Well, it's been refurbished, isn't it? So it must have been a test run there.
I don't know what was going on.
For whom the bell tolls.
Exactly.
Look, let us know what your situation is. I mean, it doesn't matter what your politics are. You're going to be hit.
Yeah.
This year. It's going to cost you more. You're probably not earning more. Your views on that. What should the government be doing to look after you?
OK, the time is 7:28. After the break, we'll be talking about Novak Djokovic. Should he be allowed in Australia despite not being vaccinated? Let us know your thoughts. First, though, here's your Thursday forecast.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain. That courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The Isabel squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption, turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning, as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again, some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Well, today is one of those days when back page headlines become front page headlines, and we're talking about the #1 tennis player in the world, Novak Djokovic. And well,
the Times. There he
he's
is.
on his way to next week's Australian Open in Melbourne. But then he got there, and the border control said, "Oh no, you're not. Oh, you're not." Paul Coit is with us now to talk about that. Why did they not allow him into the country?
Well, we can, as we were talking about it yesterday, he'd gone through so many assessments as far as the tennis authorities were concerned. They were very happy for him to come. But then again, I guess they would be because he's the current champion. He's the world number one.
Yeah, but
they want him to play in the
check the
tournament.
law out, wasn't it?
You know what? That is a small point there that maybe they should have checked the law.
Yeah.
So he's turned up, as you said, and then visa controls have looked at it and thought, well, I'm afraid you can't come in. It's as simple as that.
I mean, it is a difficult one to get your head around. I mean, I understand he's world number one.
Yeah.
What he puts in his body is super important. We heard Chris Akabusi, obviously an Olympian himself, talking about that being really important.
Sure.
We know that there are so many Australians who've been separated from loved ones that haven't been able to come into the country. You know, lots of people, life and death situations, not being able to say goodbye. And here he is swanning in thinking he could get special treatment. It doesn't go down well. And I see why Scott Morrison's come out and said, you're not coming in.
Well,
Scott, they should have all been talking to each other before this. I mean, it's you know, it's why after the fact, why allow the man to get to border control? I was saying, there's that programme on the telly, Australian Border Patrol. If they've recorded that, that's going to be gold. That is.
You don't think Novak saw that element with the Serbian president? If only they'd seen the show.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's arrived. You know, it's turning into some international incident now, as you know, and then the Serbian president's getting involved and he's on the phone to Novak and saying he's been treated disgustingly. I mean, I don't think I don't think he was sitting in economy, you know, sitting there really uncomfortable for 25 hours on the flight back. I think he was probably had a fine flight, and I think he's being looked after OK now. I don't think it's a matter of him being locked behind bars and then saying, well, you've got to stay there, we're taking your phone away, which is one of the rumours. But I don't think he's going to be able to play. It's as simple as that.
This opens up questions for other big sporting tournaments to be held in Australia. We now know the situation. You have to be vaxxed or you won't be allowed to take part.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, England cricket, they've been through the whole situation. And it's Scott Morrison, I think he's just reading the room. If you just look at the way people... I was speaking to a journalist from Australia earlier, and he was saying about how everybody feels about it, because they think, look, we've been through this. Why should we? Even if it is a major sporting event, why should he be allowed to come in? And why should he be able to play? Because all the sacrifices that we've made, and he's sort of waltzed in and said, well, actually, I've passed this one, I've passed this one. We don't really know what these exemptions are. Yeah. I don't know whether it's the fact that, has he got a heart problem? Has he had COVID in the last 6 months? Has he had this? Has he that? Whereas the authorities this is the sporting tennis authorities, they've made a point of saying, well, look, we're absolutely happy, we've gone through the whole thing, but I mean, surely this is going to come out.
We've been saying this morning that his team is now challenging Scott Morrison's intervention and it's going to court at the moment. Well, I've just literally been told in my ear that the decision's been made. He's going to have to wait in detention until Monday before this hearing can be heard.
Yeah.
So this is going to get even more attention over the weekend, isn't it?
It's not for a couple of weeks, so is he going to be happy to sit and wait? And
How's
wait for the decision. You know, what's he going to do? I'm thinking of Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, just throwing that baseball there against. Is that what he's doing? He's just given a tennis racket, just hit the ball against the wall for a while.
What was that called? The hell hole or the hot hole, or where was he?
It was. But remember what happened? He never escaped it there, though, did he?
Now, when you come back next time, we're going to be talking about football. We're going to be talking about how your team were beaten last night by Chelsea, and we're also going to be talking about the Manchester United dressing room. And it seems obvious now they are singing like canaries now, aren't they? It
rings a bell, doesn't it, Eamonn? Rings a bell.
So many links, so many leaks at the club. So apparently, has the manager got the players under control? And why is there such a fracture there?
Well,
but we don't have to talk about it now. What time's back again?
I've got about 3 hours to go through this.
In the next hour.
What?
8:20.
8:50. Right, 8:50. Set your watch for that one, and we'll see you again at 8:50.
I'll be prepared.
And we'll talk about that. Thank you very much indeed, Paul.
Before then, coming up, we're going to be talking about Meghan Markle. Have we seen the end of the saga over her letters to her father? Stay tuned to find out. But first, here's your forecast.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
With the time very almost 20 minutes to 8, we're crossing live to Los Angeles. Let's go there and see Showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield. Let's go there and see. Thank you. Lovely. There we go. Kinsey, very lovely to see you. And we're going to talk about Meghan Markle. And it was amazing yesterday because so she won damages from Associated Newspapers after the Mail on Sunday was found to have invaded her privacy. And yesterday we got news of what those damages would be. Can you tell us?
Well, I mean, it does sound kind of silly. One of the damages, she's gotten 3. One of them is just £1. And she says that she's just trying to make a point here. It's not about money. It's about her privacy. And we know it's really about controlling the narrative ultimately, but she's going to receive £1. Additionally, a sum that we don't know the full amount yet, but she promises to donate that to a bullying charity. In addition to that, they're going to have to pay her legal fees, 90% of her legal fees, which could be up to $2 million. So, she was trying to make a point with the £1 that this is about, you can't bully me, and this is about what's right and wrong. And I don't know. At the end of the day, PR-wise, I don't think she did herself any benefit in this exchange, in this battle, because the people that disliked her to begin with, too many things came out in regards to the strategy behind the letter. I'm going to say daddy in case this is leaked, things like that. The people that did not trust her or did not like her, it just cemented that.
I mean, you say she was trying to make a point. The judge, in giving the award, may also be making a point. Your reputation was damaged. Well, here is how much we believe that damage is worth in compensation. That says a lot, £1.
Well, I would say that they have done a lot to damage their own reputations. I wouldn't say that the Oprah interview did them any benefits in regards to their reputation. And I think they need a new PR firm, if I'm being honest with you, because there is so much negativity around the Sussexes. They're such polarizing characters. And, they've got deals with Spotify, Netflix. There's a new book coming out. We're all kind of waiting for this content and waiting to see if they're worth all of this money that these big American companies have thrown at them over the last year.
What about, you're there in LA. How aware is America of the Duchess of Cambridge, who's celebrating will celebrate her 40th birthday on Sunday?
Oh, we have a big girl crush on the Duchess of Cambridge. We think she is absolute perfection. There is no question that Americans are huge fans of Prince William and Catherine. She is absolutely stunning. She is elegant and graceful. And I think one of the reasons that we truly adore her is she's such a great reflection of Queen Elizabeth. She is delicate and quiet, and she works and she's so humble. She doesn't send out a press release whenever she's done something. Her work is quiet and humble, and she is just graceful, and we absolutely adore her, and we're so excited to celebrate her 40th birthday.
But in America, if there's such a thing as the Battle of the Duchesses, who's winning that at the moment?
I would say Kate. I would say Kate without a doubt, because Kate is not a polarizing figure. And the reason that Meghan has become such a polarizing figure in the States is because she's gotten involved in politics. And one of the reasons that the royals say don't do that is because you alienate 50% or more when you get involved in politics. And Meghan has very much aligned herself with Kamala Harris. She's aligned herself with Hillary Clinton. These are people that she actively pursues events with, virtual events. And quietly endorsed Joe Biden on the Time 100 special during the election. So I think that was a huge mistake for her, because 50% of America, you just did a segment on how polarizing politics is in this country right now. And what she did was she chose a side. Meghan Markle chose a side. And in doing so, 50% of America said, "Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I like you." Whereas the Duchess, Kate, we have no idea what her political beliefs are. All we know is that she works quietly for the Queen, that she's got these beautiful babies, and that she's happily married to this handsome man that one day is going to become king. It's very much a romantic fairy tale. So we're very much on her side.
Kinsey, could I ask you to put your Showbiz hat on now? We're hearing today the Grammys due to be held in LA, I think, at the end of the month, January 31st, has been cancelled because of COVID worries.
Yeah, it's going to be postponed, and I think we were expecting this. I'm a part of a lot of groups online that were already trying to figure out what they were going to do events-wise, like off events that are just celebrating the Grammys and gifting suites and things like that. So over the last few months, we've been anticipating this. I'm okay with taking a break from some of these award shows, if I'm being honest with you, because it becomes a big political thing. Everybody gets on there and tells us who to vote for and what they're offended by, and don't eat meat, which, if that's your thing, good for you. But some of us like a hamburger. But yeah, no, I'm okay with taking a break from an award show here and there. And they will be back before you know it. They're just trying to be careful due to the plague.
Okay, understand that. Thanks for your roundup. Really appreciate it. You taking the time and the trouble. That's Kinsey Schofield you were listening to and watching there. Live from Los Angeles, where it is a very unsociable time of the day. But we'll just keep the shot on you, Isabel, there, and I'll you pretend your voice has gone all deep like mine. Let's now go to Isabel. I will run you through the front pages.
I will indeed. The time is 7:46. Let's take a look at the Times first of all. It's a boost for holidays for them as the confusing system of travel testing is scrapped across England. We'll try and get that front page for you in just a moment. But let's move on to, there it is. The Daily Mail says lift off Britain. They are saying the 7-day isolation period could be reduced to 5. That would follow the United States on that measure. The Eye simply reads deported after Novak Djokovic's Australian visa was revoked when he arrived in Melbourne. And the Daily Star reporting that 750,000 people have now signed a petition asking for Tony Blair's knighthood to be revoked. Well, in the studio to review this morning's papers are the former Team GB Olympic athlete Chris Akabusi and Baroness Kate Hoey, former Labour MP and now independent peer. A very warm welcome to you both. We really love to have you in on this Thursday. Let's get straight into it then. Some great news for the travel industry and for those of us who like a foreign holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. I can just imagine now a lot of my friends on the golf course are going to be really excited and go back on their golfing trips, etc., and not worry. Basically, what they're saying is that if you've filled the criteria, you're double jabbed, you won't have to worry. You just take the lateral flow test now when you're coming back rather than the PCR test. There's no quarantine at home waiting for the test results. And that 72-hour pre-departure testing has also stopped. Because a lot of my friends were saying their challenge was they were going on a holiday and the last 3 days of their holiday was taken up with all the paperwork, trying to make sure that you're compliant to get back into the country. So it can save them money, easier in the bookings, and you can relax on your holiday.
Yeah.
So it would be brilliant.
You keep talking about your friends on the golf course. You're not planning then. You don't want to go anywhere sunny anytime soon.
No. I'm very happy where I am.
You're happy where you are.
Very happy where I am.
Kate Hoey, do you think this removes the element of uncertainty around travel, or do you think travellers would be wise to still be a bit cautious? Because there's no, guarantee that suddenly could be another variant, that they could be facing hotel quarantine when they come back, or indeed that they still have to jump through hoops for some of the countries that they're going to.
It's been awful for people who've tried to visit even just relatives and families. Everyone goes on about it's all about holidays, but it's actually been a lot of people wanting to try and visit their relatives. So yes, I think it does, and I think it's it's a real boost, I think, to people who now feel I personally think we are over the worst of things.
Yes.
And therefore, we can start to plan again, to look at our holidays, to look at being able to do things. And, I think it's actually shows that, finally, the Prime Minister and the government have actually recognised that, people have to be careful, but we've got to stop this hysteria, which has been
100%. We've got to get back to life.
Yeah.
Life is for living. One day you ain't going to be here. And when I came into London yesterday for the hotel, it's 6 o'clock. No traffic. Absolutely no traffic. And I went to my hotel, no people. The restaurant. We've got to get over this. We have got to. And I think this is what's good about it. It's signalling we are through the worst of it. There's still stuff around. You were wearing a mask. Everyone's very careful. But the worst of it. So if we keep on being sensible, we're getting there.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was just going to say, it's very interesting that, England has led on this, and Boris, but now Wales and Scotland, who always have been so draconian and almost wanting to do the opposite of what Boris Johnson has wanted to do, are now having to...
and do you think he's got it right then? Because a lot of people have come out and said, actually, it's really tough to hold your nerve because you always feel the need to do something so that you can say, well, look, it didn't work, but I did this. But actually by saying, you know what, hang on, we're just going to carry on, have your Christmas, do your own decisions. Was that the right tack
I think it was
him?
the right thing to do. And I think, quite honestly, if he hadn't done that, people were going to just have their own Christmases because they understand the dangers, but they also understand what should be.
And actually, that is leadership, isn't it? Because he led when many people were telling him not to do that. So he went with his own instincts and the people around him, and he's led, and he's been proven right to date. And then, of course, it can go wrong, and that's why sometimes you've got to make a decision, set your strategy, off you go. Then at least all of us around know what the scenario is, what's the umwelt, what's our surroundings, how can we operate in the here and now.
I mean, a lot of NHS workers would say it's not exactly plain sailing at the moment, but perhaps that's all down to these unvaccinated folks clogging up intensive care, as the Prime Minister was trying to tell us this week. I want to move on to another story about the NHS, actually, but about a Christian nurse who was ordered to take off her crucifix, Kate. This is in the Telegraph. Tell us more.
Yes, and it's also covered in the Express as well. This was a nurse, Mary Onua. She'd worked at Croydon Hospital for 19 years, and I think there was some publicity at the time because she was forced out of her job as a theatre practitioner because she was wearing a tiny little Christian necklace with a gold necklace, and they said it was an infection risk. And yet there were other people wearing all sorts of things. But yesterday, the judge and the Employment Tribunal ruled that any risk was very low and that she'd been constructively dismissed and she's going to get... and I think it's important.
That right?
I think it is important because there is a kind of feeling certainly among Christian people that there's a shift and a move to try and downgrade anyone who's a Christian somehow, that there's something wrong with that almost. Yeah. So I think I'm pleased that she's won this, and also pleased that at the age of 61 she actually was prepared to take on,
keep on fighting
and fight it.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's the right thing. She's had to wait for it. She's waited for it. She felt she was right. She's had the faith. I'm sure that her faith has taken her through all of the sea of troubles, and she's come out on the right side.
The timing of this, really interesting, because we're expecting a judgment this morning, actually, from the European Court of Human Rights on, you'll remember this, Kate, because it's a story from Northern Ireland, the couple who refused to make a cake in support of gay marriage. The UK government, through the Supreme Court, found in favour of the couple that they were entitled as Christians to not make the cake. He's now taken it, this gay activist, all the way up to the ECHR, and we're expecting that ruling this morning.
Right. I hadn't realised.
Yeah, I mean, this has been rumbling on 8 years.
That'll be a big story. story in Northern Ireland because, of course, they were very clear that they weren't anti-gay. They weren't refusing people who were gay. They just did not want to make cakes that had messages on them that they felt were not in there. So it's a very interesting case. I hadn't realised that.
Yeah, and we've got to get away from the polarisation to have a decent conversation about the nuances of this scenario. And then, of course, we can all grow and learn, develop. But clearly, we all understand we are in a liberal society and we need to be all together with it.
We've got to live and let live, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
OK, Chris, I want to go to the story you've chosen in the Mail. This is about New Year's resolutions. Eamonn and I have been talking about them this morning. I don't know if you've made any yourself. Lots of people doing Veganuary.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great idea. But what Tim Spector, who's a professor at King's College, says, it's a well-meaning idea, but what they end up doing is binging on meat substitutes rather than having more fruit and veg. What's the problem with that? Well, the meat substitutes often have more salt, more additives, more fats, more sugars. So actually, it can potentially be more unhealthy going that route. But the upside is, if you do try out with a vegetarian way of living, you can add to your cuisine. For example, every Tuesday now, I will have, not quite vegetarian, I'm afraid, but a little bit of fish. But I eat Korean seaweed, for example, which is something I'd never had before. But it's beautiful.
Why every Tuesday? Just
because I decided. I had a friend. She every Tuesday she had fish, so I followed her.
Okay, it's not like meat-free Monday, Korean seaweed Tuesday.
No. Tuesday is meat-free.
Okay.
So I'll Korean seaweed in my rice, and it's beautiful with maybe some prawns, or I make a fish pepper broth with lentils and.
Oh my goodness!
It's just beautiful, and this is all because I tried out the vegetarian way of life.
Yeah.
So if you get it right, it just adds to your experience of eating.
Selling it, I'm not sure it's for me. We're almost out of time, but I do want to bring in another story lastly. This is Telegraph page 8, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee commemorative coin's been released. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's absolutely beautiful, yes. I hope the viewers can see it. And, of course, it's very much in keeping with the Queen's love of horse riding and her right throughout her years. In 70 years, the Platinum Jubilee, I think it's going to be a big thing in the whole of the United Kingdom this year because, of course, with COVID, we haven't been able to celebrate very much.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she is marvellous.
She is.
Absolutely.
I just hope that they give every child something to keep because I've still got, this shows my age, my 19 coronation pencil case. And I think it's every child should be given something to commemorate.
53!
Yes.
You won't believe it. Look, we'll marvel on that. We have to leave it there. Kate Hoey, Chris Akabusi, it's been a pleasure. That's it from us.
Wherever you are, you're watching and listening to GB Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel. We'll take a break now. Very shortly, we're going to be joined by the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps. We'll ask him and we'll put your questions to him as well about rail prices and if going on holiday is on in the coming months. But first, let's have a look at the weather picture, and I can tell you, it's cold.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain. That courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The isobars squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption, turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good to see you on this Thursday morning. The time is 8 o'clock. This is Eamonn and Isabel with breakfast on GB News, not only on the telly, but also on your radio.
That's right. You can find us on DAB+. So if you've been watching us at home before work or school, don't forget you can take us with you as you hop in the car or make your way into the office.
Whatever way, thanks for watching and listening. Coming up this morning.
Health leaders are warning the NHS is facing a staffing crisis with more than 20 trusts on the highest level of alert. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says Plan B rules will continue until at least January the 26th.
But any of you thinking of taking a winter break have been given a boost after some travel rules are scrapped. We're going to be talking to the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, very shortly. And we've got your questions which you've emailed and tweeted to us as well.
Novak Djokovic has had his visa revoked by the Australian government following a backlash over being allowed to play in the Australian Open despite not being vaccinated. Has justice been served?
And we'll meet the Slimming World's Woman of the Year 2021.
Have a listen to the story of this Ellesmere Port woman. She lost 8 stone and 11.5 pounds. That's almost half her body weight. How did she do it? We'll be asking her.
Got the Transport Secretary, new rules involving travel and COVID. Fully vaccinated travellers heading into England will no longer have to take a pre-departure test from tomorrow. And on Sunday, people will only need to take a lateral flow test rather than a PCR test on day 2 after arrival. You're looking at and listening to Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary. Good morning, Mr. Shapps.
Good morning. A slightly compressed one by the look of the picture.
Yes, by the look of it, yes. Well, we'll try and uncompress you. A lot of our viewers this morning, they're going to be hoping to cheer themselves up. They're going to be hoping to book their summer holiday or maybe book a break at Easter or something like that. Should they have more confidence to do that going abroad now after the new rule changes?
I think the simple answer is yes. We only ever brought those rules in as a temporary measure when Omicron was found in South Africa. It's given us the opportunity to get 13 million jabs in people's arms, those booster jabs, meantime. And since we know that Omicron is widespread around the world, Omicron-specific testing for travel really had outlived its usefulness. And that's why we've been able to scrap those complications and all that cost.
I just want to ask you, we asked our viewers and listeners to get in touch with any questions they wanted us to put to you. And on this topic, we got an email from Pete Jung. He wants to know, when the next variant arrives, will there be another red list allocation in hotel quarantine? If so, despite these rule changes that you've brought in, I still have no confidence in travel. What do you say to him?
Yeah, look, I think to be fair to him and all of your viewers, we have to realise we live in a world where the coronavirus is with us. It's likely to mutate again at some point. What we always need to do is make sure we protect public health as best as we possibly can. We've got the red list on standby. There are 0 countries in it right now. But to answer the question, yes, we would implement the red list if need be. And if you're booking a flight or a holiday or accommodation, obviously make sure that it's changeable. But having said that, we do want to be in a world where we stop treating the outside world as if it's a dangerous place, where we have sensible measures in place, but where people should be able to travel, go on holiday, see family, do business abroad. And this is a clear indication that we won't keep these things in place a moment longer than we think is absolutely necessary.
What would you say then, Transport Secretary, to people who are genuinely worried about contracting COVID and they've gone on their holiday to Portugal or Cuba or wherever they've gone to, and they then board an airplane which may be full of people who are carrying COVID? And they won't have to test till they get to the other end. And what would you say to those people in terms of their confidence of that COVID virus being transmitted to them?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, as we know, particularly with Omicron, it is everywhere, literally in every country, including here in a big way, as we know. So, you could make the same argument for getting on a bus in this country, or the train, or any other, going to the shops. It is always there, but we don't require people to test to do those things. So it's about having a reasonable approach. We want to live in a world where people are able to live alongside coronavirus. I think that we're increasingly able to move there thanks to vaccinations. And I do appeal to people to come forward. There are still 9 million people vaccinations that we're keen to give. We need people to come forward for those. But we couldn't see a good reason to keep in place extra testing just because that journey is being made somewhere which isn't in the UK, when we already accept, if you like, those risks in the UK.
It must be very wearing on you, very wearing, just to try and get this right, to try and constantly do the right thing, which is what I'm sure you're trying to do. And you've had to listen to the travel industry. I'm sure you haven't given them everything that they want, but how helpful will all of this be, or how beleaguered is the travel industry?
Well, I think it has been an absolutely exceptional time for the travel industry. Your viewers who might be working in travel or indeed in tourism, how damaging? Nearly £50 billion in missing income from tourism, for example. We know that the airlines themselves have been hugely struggling, and they have had to put up with this for a very long time. So I think this will be a big boost to them. I think we want to live in a test-free travel world, and that should be our ultimate destination. I think that the measures today will help, but there's probably quite a lengthy flight path, I would say, to the recovery of the sector. But we hope to see that happen.
Love the travel metaphor there. Look, whilst we've got you, I have to ask you about a huge story on the front of many of the papers this morning about the verdict from Bristol Crown Court yesterday in relation to the toppling of the statue of Edward Colston. They were found not guilty, and there are some who would say that that is a licence for people to go out and vandalise statues. What do you make of the verdict?
Well, look, I don't want to comment for obvious reasons on an individual case or a jury's decision. They'll have all the facts. They will have been the experts on this. But I do think it's right to say that we can't have a situation where it's okay to go around and cause damage, to vandalise public or private property. That's why we have laws in this country. And we are taking steps through the police crime and policing bill. It's going through Parliament at the moment to close off a loophole or two, which will provide more options for prosecutions. I'm not defending, what that statute stands for or anything else, because we're fortunate. We live in a democratic country, and if you want to get things changed in the public realm, statues removed or put up for that matter, we have a democratic process for doing that, which doesn't involve going and tearing them down with your own hands. And it's right that people follow that democratic process. It sits at the heart of our laws, and it's absolutely right that we make sure that the law is available to ensure that can happen.
Look, Derek on emails looking for assurance, and so are a lot of other people on this subject. Can the Transport Secretary rule out the introduction of a ban on public transport for anyone who is unvaccinated?
Yes, I can. We've taken the decision in this country that we, of course, want people to be vaccinated. We think that's very, very important. But we're not going down, I see the Italians have gone that way and the French are pushing very hard, compulsory vaccinations. And the reason we haven't had to do that is actually that, by and large, this country has come forward in extraordinary numbers to get themselves vaccinated. I was just looking at the latest numbers. Over 90% of 50-plus-year-olds have had their booster vaccinations, not just their full vaccination, the first and second, but the booster as well. We are, refreshingly sensible when it comes to getting vaccines. I'd reflect what the Prime Minister said the other day, which is it's crazy not to go out and get your vaccine. But that said, we live in a free country, and we're not going to be pinning people down and putting vaccinations into their arms, albeit that if you're not vaccinated, there are often additional hassles. We were talking about international travel before. I should have made clear that all of the removal of the testing only applies if you've had your vaccinations. If you haven't, then you still have to take a pre-departure test, a day 2 test, quarantine, a day 8 test. You get the message. It's expensive and a hassle, so it's definitely worth being vaccinated for that reason as well.
Finally, Grant Shapps, you sat in Cabinet yesterday, first Cabinet meeting of 2022. I don't know if it's Jacob Rees-Mogg's team briefing to the papers, but there appears to be this suggestion that Jacob Rees-Mogg has raised it in Cabinet that he thinks that Rishi Sunak should shelve his plans to increase national insurance in April. A highly controversial move because of the concerns about cost of living this year. I'm not asking you if that's true or not, what goes on in Cabinet, but I want to know what your view is. Does it need to be reconsidered given many people are having to face the harsh reality of eating or heating their homes?
Well, I was going to say, I knew you weren't going to try to entice me to discuss private cabinet discussions on the TV, so I would never do that. But actually, look, we have a collective position, which is that we think it's absolutely right that we do two things. One, clear up the very big backlog of operations and procedures that haven't been able to take place because the NHS has been so remarkably dealing with coronavirus. And two, make sure that we deal with the long-term problem of social care, where people can lose their homes, for example, if they have dementia and they have to pay for that long-term care. But that doesn't apply if you have a different type of illness and you're able to pass on your home. And so we're fixing that, and we're doing it through a rise in national insurance. That's the decision that we've made. We think we're making an important historic point here by righting that wrong. And of course, it will then be for the Chancellor to decide how he makes the figures stack up. But no, that's the decision, and that is what will happen.
The way our pictures stacked up today, I just want to say, Grant Shapps, that it's very flattering, that stretched,
maybe we could get it.
Picture we've got.
It's a post-Christmas
yes.
to me, where rather than dieting...
I'm going to be demanding it for the rest of the week. Yeah, I'm going to be demanding a Grant Shapps stretched picture, the way it is.
Quite right.
Thank you very much, Secretary of State. Really appreciate you coming on the programme. Thank you. I'll leave it there. Thank you. Right. Other news. Let's bring you up to date. What have you got, Isabel?
Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers want a retrial after a juror told the media that he was a victim of sexual abuse. The juror said he'd convinced others that a victim's imperfect memory doesn't mean the abuse didn't happen. That was a central tenet of the argument in court. Well, Maxwell was, of course, convicted last week of grooming underage girls to be abused by Jeffrey Epstein.
A jury's decision to clear 4 people of criminal damage after they pulled down the statue of a slave trader has been described as a milestone in Britain as it comes to terms with its history.
The bronze memorial of Edward Colston was rolled into the water during a Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol in June 2020. 3 men and a woman were acquitted following an 11-day trial.
As you've been hearing throughout the programme, Novak Djokovic, the tennis player, the world's #1, his bid to have his visa cancellation overturned will be heard in an Australian court on Monday. The Serbian tennis player, who's hoping to defend his Grand Slam title, was told by border officials he did not meet entry rules and he will be deported.
Now to the United States. They are marking 1 year to the day since the Capitol Hill riots.
The world was stunned when supporters of Donald Trump stormed the US Capitol building, attempting to stop Joe Biden from officially winning the presidential election. Our national reporter Paul Hawkins with more on this.
Some called it one of America's darkest days. Others saw it as a demonstration of US democracy. One protester shot dead, 138 officers injured as thousands of angry Donald Trump supporters tried to storm the heart of American democracy, the Capitol building. The authorities and the world taken completely by surprise, overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of protesters. Their goal, to stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory. They were angry, they felt cheated, like Donald Trump, who spoke to them just 30 minutes before they breached police lines at the Capitol building.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
2 investigations are still ongoing. One by the FBI has so far charged more than 700 people. Another by a congressional committee made up of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans has spoken to more than 250 people. They're trying to answer questions like how involved the White House was in organising the rallies. Did they know it would turn violent? And why did it take 2.5 hours for President Trump to tell his supporters to stop rioting?
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.
Most are cooperating with the congressional investigation, but a handful of those closest to Donald Trump are not, citing executive privilege.
The insurrection took place on November 3rd. That was Election Day. And before and after. That was, to me, the insurrection. And the January 6th was a protest. But if you would have looked at the crowds, the size, nobody wants to talk about that. I believe it was the biggest and most people, and I've spoken to very big crowds. I have never spoken in front of a crowd that size. Nobody ever talks about that. And then, unfortunately, some bad things happened, but also the other side had some very bad things happen.
A recent ABC Ipsos poll suggests 52% of Republican voters believe the rioters were actually protecting American democracy. While a Massachusetts University Amherst poll released just after Christmas suggests more than a third of Americans believe President Biden's victory was illegitimate. Expect to hear more of that when Donald Trump holds a rally in Arizona a week on Saturday instead of today's cancelled press conference. President Biden, meanwhile, will speak to the nation on a day Democrats are calling for reflection, remembrance and recommitment from the American people. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
Now, we should add to all of this that just last night Donald Trump cancelled a speech planned to take place on this, the anniversary. We go to Switzerland. Alan Friedman is a journalist and an author of This Is Not America. Mr. Friedman, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You've interviewed Donald Trump throughout his presidency. Him cancelling this speech, what do you make of that?
I think Trump's advisors, his family, and people around him probably realized that holding a press conference to deny the results of the election and once again try to minimize the violence of a year ago was not a good idea. Also, this is a day where President Biden will be clearly making a televised speech and placing the blame for the violence last year squarely with Donald Trump, with Steve Bannon, with a team of people who, it appears, encouraged and perhaps financed and organized what became a violent insurrection. So I think Trump is holding back, but I think he will eventually, potentially, declare himself for the presidency again. So I don't think we've seen the last of Trump by any means.
You think he's going to run then to be president? Do you think he'll be successful again? Do you think we could well see an America where he's back in office? And do you think that America will be capable of healing if that's the case?
Well, I think America is still very, very wounded. I don't think America is healing at all 1 year after this violence. And I have to say, our country is really two separate realities. The Democrats who fear that democracy is danger, that Republicans have become a cult following of Trump, and Republicans who, as your report accurately said, in large part believe that this was not a fair election. They believe Trump's big lie, and many of them minimize the violence of last year. So I think America is going to remain divided. My prediction would be that this November, the Republicans will capture both the House and the Senate, leaving Joe Biden by the end of this year a lame duck, weakened, wounded, and with Trump supporters pretty much in charge of Congress.
Yeah. Why is he so Teflon? I mean, it's very interesting, your analysis of that. And he has a lot of admirers in the United Kingdom as well. And we know, we sit here, and if a British politician did half the things that Donald Trump has done, I mean, it would be career ending for them. Why is he Teflon-like?
I think because America has become such a divided, polarized country. It isn't Trump that polarized America. Trump was the manifestation of more than a decade of division. There's a great deal of frustration. There's a growing racism on the part of poor and less educated whites who fear that America will, in a few years, no longer be a white country. This is how white supremacists grow, because it's true demographically that America will be more black and Hispanic and mixed race than white in a few years. But this kind of racism, this fear, is part of a cultural phenomenon, which I think we're seeing across America, but also across other countries like Italy, like Le Pen in France, like Orban in Hungary. There is an illiberal part of democracy that believes in a more authoritarian and anti-immigrant and nationalist approach. Trump is the emblem of that.
Alan Friedman, really appreciate your analysis on things. Thank you very much indeed. Alan Friedman's book is This Is Not America, and he's speaking to us live there from Switzerland.
Coming up after the break, we'll be looking at hospital parking charges. Should they be scrapped? Are there enough spaces for free parking? We want to hear your stories. Stay tuned our way. But first, here's the forecast.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK, with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain. That courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The isobars squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption. We're turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning, as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Breakfast here on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. We're now going to talk about hospital parking charges, which I think are hard to justify. Yeah. There's two sides to the story, but basically a third of all hospitals now charge staff and visitors, to actually park at hospitals.
Yeah, the charges for some medics come despite the government telling hospitals to scrap them during the pandemic, and some staff have reported paying thousands of pounds a year to park. That's at their place of work.
Yeah, well, let's talk to a doctor now, Dr. Richard Vortree. Dr. Vortree is a GP in Leeds. He's Assistant Secretary of the Leeds Local Medical Committee. Dr. Vortree, there's this, I'm not necessarily asking you, although this has happened to you, please do tell us, but we're thinking of professionals turning up for work, any of us turning up for work. You're a radiographer, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a surgeon, whatever it happens to be, and you've nowhere to park, or if you have, it's costing you quite a hefty fee for that day. Has it ever happened to you, first of all, that you couldn't find somewhere to park?
No, fortunately, it hasn't happened to me. As a GP, I don't have to pay for my parking in the practice surgery. And it really is unfair. That those who are really working extremely hard day after day and often not earning very much if you're many of the hospital colleagues in hospital settings are not paid well and still having to pay significant amounts on a day-to-day basis just to go to work. It's simply not right or fair, and particularly for patients who are going for day cases, having to go repeatedly to the hospital, also having to pay large charges. That's not the case in Scotland and Wales. It shouldn't be the case in England.
Yeah, well, you're echoing, I think, what a lot of our viewers and listeners are thinking today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no doctor, but I can tell that, you know, if you can't get a parking space, you've got your appointment that you've been waiting for months and months, and you're driving round and round. It's not good for your health as a vulnerable or infirm person going into hospital. Surely it's actually counterproductive to patients getting treatment.
Yes, I'm sure it is. It causes immense stress for our patients. They are concerned about, you know, the extra costs. They could understand it if they had to pay once, but many patients are having to repeatedly go to the hospital for procedures, and many of those supporting those patients, wanting to visit them, and care for them, are also being charged as well.
Doctor, there's this line put about, and I just don't know if you know the answer to this, but we'll keep talking if he's gone or not. We'll just keep talking about it. There's this line that you highlighted earlier, which was that there is an argument that, oh yes, but these costs don't go to these vulture car parking companies. Lie, because they do. But they also go to frontline medical services. Is the doctor back again? Is there a doctor in the house? No, he's not there.
No, what it was, I read an article that said a surprising amount of money was actually raised for frontline services, despite fewer people being in hospital or visiting hospital. 50 million being ploughed into frontline services. I mean, it makes you feel guilty then about talking about taking away the charges.
That's if you believe it.
Yeah.
People, you guys out there, I mean, you don't believe anything you see on TV news. I mean, you doubt everything. I think we are entitled to doubt certain things.
Yeah.
You know, just because they say it so doesn't make it so. I'd like to know where that 50 million actually goes. And if you're in a hospital trust, I mean, how many of them, 17, are now in an emergency situation? Has that money got to you? Because it certainly hasn't got to the ambulance service, because you can't get one of those during the day, that's for sure.
Yeah, so many people getting in touch about hospital parking as well. It's such a nightmare. When I was pregnant, I remember driving around in circles and trying to find parking spaces, waddling about for miles. It's awful.
Luckily, my wife, when she was expecting our child, luckily I was there. I could tell she had gone into labour. She didn't know she'd gone into labour, but I knew.
Yeah.
So I put her into the car, and in the days before sat-nav, there's none of that, but my instinct...
Oh, you just had a natural satellite navigation.
And she did nothing but moan the whole way.
Gosh.
Moan the whole way, as if I wasn't going to get her there in time. But I was lucky there, you know, there she was, you know, put in her bed, her contractions started, whatever, she was in lots of pain. And you know, I went around chatting to the nurses and everyone who was there, just spreading goodwill around the ward.
Oh, I'm sure Ruthie was so grateful for that cheer you were spreading whilst she was in agony bringing your child into the world.
So it was medicine. And her words were simply to the nurse beside her, "Get him back here." And that was the order that came. So there we go. Now, the pressure on the government to invest more money into drug and alcohol services. We're going to talk about this now because this is incredibly disturbing. It's another medical story, and it's something that I think a lot of us don't think about.
Yeah, since April 2017, figures show at least 852 babies were born addicted to drugs and alcohol. Well, our Scotland reporter, Davy Donaldson's live for us at the Drugs and Rehab Centre in Edinburgh. Very good morning to you, Davy. Goodness me, that is a really, really shocking number.
Born addicted.
Born addicted. And what's behind these numbers?
Yeah, well, sadly, it's obviously to do with the parents of the children being addicted themselves and encouraging the children then to become addicted, to be born that way. So obviously it's an extremely worrying statistic indeed. It's come around by the Scottish Lib Dems. They've put in the Freedom of Information request to find out this information. It could even be more because Shetland and Fife haven't actually responded to the request, so there could be actually more babies than that. Obviously it's a hugely worrying thing. These children starting life is absolutely spoilt due to the fact that they're addicted to drugs and alcohol. So yeah, extremely worrying times. The Scottish Government say they put £250 million into this area to try and help the situation, but the Liberal Democrats here saying that's nowhere near enough. And let's not forget, Scotland's drug figures are absolutely horrendous. You know, the worst in Europe, absolutely awful. They keep rising year on year, so something has to happen. So it's very difficult, obviously, for the Scottish Government to handle the situation, and many would say that they're not handling it at all, because the figures keep going up and up and up, and there has been a centre specifically designed for obviously children who are born with a drug problem. That's in Saltcoats in the west coast of Scotland in Ayrshire, so that's Phoenix Futures. So hopefully that will be open soon, and that people will be able to get some help. But yeah, it's a very, very worrying time, and these statistics don't make for great reading at all.
Davy, thank you very much indeed. Davy Donaldson reporting there. With that, we will take a break, and we'll be seeing if all of you watching and listening are sticking to your New Year resolutions, whatever they may be.
Yeah, well, we'll be speaking to one amazing woman. I don't know if it was a New Year's resolution, but she managed to lose 9 stone.
Yeah. I mean, that's my total weight.
Actually, this is around my total weight.
That is incredible.
Stay with us. We'll be talking to her, finding out what her secret is. That's after this short break.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hello there, wherever you're watching or listening. It is exactly 8:35. Welcome to breakfast here on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
We have a really inspirational story now. Lots of people make New Year's resolutions to try and lose a bit of weight. Well, Sophie Hickenbottom did that last year. She's been named Slimmer of the Year for 2021 after losing almost 9 stone and halving her body weight.
How many stone did you say there?
9 stone.
That's a lot.
That
is a lot. Let's go to Sophie. We say congratulations to you, first of all, Sophie. Let's see. We're seeing a lot less of you, of course. There, we're going to see. That's you now. Let's see the way you used to be. Let's see the old you here, and tell us what does it feel like? You know, having shed all that weight.
Wow,
that's me.
Gosh, fantastic! Look at that, different woman.
Well, what does it feel like being 9 stone lighter, Sophie?
I genuinely feel like a different person. People often ask, like, do you feel better? But I just feel different. It's really difficult to describe. I feel like a new woman.
Do you see, when you look at old pictures of yourself, do you actually look at old pictures of yourself? You know, because, I mean, a lot of us in our life, if you were heavier at a certain time, you sort of just, you know, recoil back from it. What's your reaction when you see the old you?
I think so. When I was bigger, I didn't I wouldn't let people take photos, and I wouldn't look in the mirror. I wouldn't look at myself. I felt so ashamed and embarrassed. But it feels very different now, looking back. I can kind of see how far I've come and how much has changed. So now it's a really incredible and empowering experience to look back and kind of think about my journey along the way.
It's so empowering because you achieved such an incredible thing. But what I really want to know is, do you feel happier? Because we're all taught, aren't we, by society, you'll be happy once you're thin. I mean, I'm still in the pursuit of that. But, you know, do you think you're happy now?
Yeah, I think... Again, it's hard to compare. Like, do I feel happier now than compared to before? But yeah, I think I'm so confident now. You wouldn't recognise me now. You know, even appearing on television this morning, I would never have put myself forward for that. So yeah, I definitely feel happier. You know, I've kind of got this like buzz about me all the time. I've got loads of energy, and yeah, I feel amazing.
Well, you talked there about, you know, feeling happier, and you touched upon obviously feeling healthier as well. What does that do to your self-esteem? I mean, do you feel healthier, and in what ways do you feel healthier?
Yeah, I was at some point in my journey, I was kind of challenged to introduce exercise. So alongside following Slimming World, I introduced running. So that, you know, in terms of my physical health, I'm much fitter. I now run up the stairs. Before I used to avoid going upstairs, but I run up them. So yeah, it's just my general kind of the way I feel.
You know, I'm always intrigued by this because for me, you know, to lose weight, it takes all the joy out of my life. It means all the fun things, the food that I live for. I absolutely love to eat. I'm a foodie. I love my alcohol, a bottle of wine. I take that out. What have I got to live for? And you know, well, that's a bit extreme. But, you know, can it be still fun when you're, you know, so strict with your diet?
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Slimming World is that there are no restrictions, and I wasn't really sure whether I should believe it at the beginning either. But I genuinely, there's nothing I've had to cut out of my life. So it's kind of having those things, but in moderation. And I make more exciting food now than I did previously. I challenge myself to make kind of on-plan, exciting meals. So yeah, I feel like it kind of makes you more excited about your food. So yeah, no, you don't have to cut it all out.
Sophie, you're only 30 years of age. What was the moment how did it happen when you decided, I'm going to do something about this and stick to it? Was it somebody's suggestion? Was it you yourself? How did it happen?
It was a chain of events, really. I've struggled with my weight pretty much my whole life. It's fluctuated. I moved out of home in 2017 to live with my partner, so the weight just started creeping back on. Bad habits, you know, kind of crept in. We'd order takeaways and things. And then kind of fast forward to 2019, my niece was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, a rare childhood cancer, and she was in remission, which was amazing. We decided to do a charity 5K, and I, at the beginning really, realised how unfit I'd become. I thought I was fit because I walked the dogs, but I just didn't think I was going to be able to complete it, and I just felt horrendous. So it's at that point I decided, you know, it's time to do something about it. And then Christmas came, and I joined in January 2020.
That is absolutely incredible. Do you know, one thing I've realised is it's not the amount of exercise you do, it's what you put in your mouth, really. And the older I get, the more I wish I had been taught at school more about cooking and nutrition and all that sort of thing as well. Because processed food, it's poison, basically. I mean, the food industry poisons us with salt and sugar and goodness knows what sort of additives.
Discounts on the rubbish as well.
Yeah, and on all the rubbish. And they're, you know, people like me are there just to, you know, take advantage of it. But I have to say, I don't really enjoy my food now, Sophie, unless it's fresh. You know, unless it's cooked fresh, because you really can taste the difference. What way have your eating habits changed?
I think lots of people think that, you know, to to make a diet change, that you actually have to make huge changes. But I don't think I've made massive changes. It's just swapping things out. So like oil and butter for low-calorie spray. Everything's fresh. So, vegetables, fruit, meat. It's eating, kind of leaner, so cutting the fat off meat. So it's a lifestyle change rather than just, taking things out of my diet. And it's, I guess, making sure you get all of that fresh goodness that you get from healthy food.
Well, do you know what? You look like fresh goodness.
So
you
amazing.
do. You really do. And we're delighted for you. You look so happy and healthy and young, and well done you. And I hope you're a motivation for many other people like Isabel.
Sophie Higginbottom, you are an inspiration. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Well done. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. Let's bring you the front pages. This is the way they're shaping up today. Question, where will it all end, asks the Daily Express, also referring to the Colston statue court case. Here's the Mirror. It reports that a perfect storm of pressure on the NHS frontline is building as staff shortages grow. Boost for the holidays in the Times, as the confusing system of travel testing is scrapped across England. Lift off Britain, reads the Daily Mail, with reports that the 7-day isolation period may be reduced to 5. The Eye reads deported after Novak Djokovic's Australian visa was revoked when he arrived in Melbourne. He's appealing that. Baroness Bra in cop quiz is the front page of The Sun. Michelle Mone quizzed by police over the claim she sent a racist text message. And the Daily Star says that 750,000 people have now signed a petition asking for Tony Blair's knighthood to be revoked. We're in the studio now to review this morning's papers, and former Team GB Olympic athlete Chris Akabusi and Baroness Kate Hoey are our reviewers. Kate Hoey, former Labour MP and an independent peer now. Chris, going to start with good morning to both of you.
Yeah, good
Lovely
morning,
to see you.
Eamonn.
And I have to say, it's nice reaction from people watching at home. You're entertaining, you're informing and entertaining us this morning. So
Lovely, and you're so relaxing, welcoming. It's great to be with you, Eamonn. I'm loving it.
Well,
I'm loving it, Eamonn.
You've been entertaining. I've never heard that accusation towards you before, but...
and you're unflappable. You're there. It's easy.
But he is a man. I said, when I was asking who would you like to review the papers, and I said to the production team, I said, this man is sunshine in a bottle.
He's amazing. I was sports minister, and I
we're together,
he,
exactly.
he is just a star. He really
bless you. It's great working with you.
We're going to start with a serious subject, though, on this Djokovic situation in Australia. How did it come to this?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. I mean, how has it got so far? How wasn't it sorted out before you even travelled so that you don't have this show that's going on right now? I think, I'd love to see him there. He's obviously number one in the world, going for his 21st Grand Slam. And he's not sick. I mean, the most important thing is he's not sick. He's not asymptomatic. I'm assuming he's done all the tests and he's not sick.
As an athlete, if you were side by side on the track with a fellow athlete, but you knew they had been tested and they knew they were negative, would you be happy to participate?
100%. 100%. I mean, look, whenever you go into the arena, you're competing against all sorts of conditions. You don't know. You don't know what people have got. You just step in the arena and you compete. And actually, what I was thinking, Eamonn, with this, if you wanted it to happen, it would be very easy to set up a system where he flies in, quarantined, an air bubble, onto the arena.
But, and I'm going to get the politician's perspective in this, those are not the rules. That is not what they're doing in Australia.
Well, except there are exceptions. There's no doubt about it. Australia is letting the odd person in without, if they can prove they have really genuine reasons for not being vaccinated. And I think, what Chris has said is right. These sports stars these days, not like when Chris was competing, are really absolutely, they never meet the public if they don't want to. He could have been put in, he'll not meet anyone while he's there, really. So, I think... I don't know the detail of what he gave in.
But as sport fans, you'd like to see him there.
Yes, I would.
And his doctors
and I think,
carry on.
No, Chris, go on. I'm just saying, I think we both agree, really, probably, that Australia's being
very,
very, very
harsh.
Okay. Right. All of the, the fallout from the pandemic, whatever it falls to the health services, the various health services. We talk about the NHS today, and an opinion piece in the Mail today from Stephen Glover, and he's saying what?
Well, what he's saying is that we should ignore the BBC. Well, we're on GB News, so that's all right. Ignore the BBC and Labour shroud wavers. The NHS is not in crisis, and Boris is right to stand firm in the face of their hysteria. And I think what he's trying to say here, Eamonn, is that the NHS is every winter has a crisis. It has always been the situation. We pour more and more money into it, and we get crises. And what he's really arguing for, and I think it is something that, when all of this COVID situation has been settled, I think we need he's arguing for a really proper, genuinely even-handed debate about where the NHS is going and whether long-term we can handle the changes in technology that are coming in medicine, changes that... The NHS is never going to have enough money.
No, it never is, but it's never going to have more love than it has at the moment. And I think people feel really vulnerable, and they go, well, thank goodness it was there. When I got COVID, my vitals went all over the place. Your heart rate and your how hydrated you were, and blood pressure, all that sort of thing. And I couldn't get an ambulance. I mean, they said you need an ambulance, but obviously I didn't. So, my wife drove me to hospital. But even though I got out again within, 6 or 7 hours, I was just so relieved they were there.
Yes.
They were there because it could have led to something else. Yeah.
NHS is the most valued service there is in this country, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't sometimes have to look
have a reality check
of what's actually going on in there.
Okay. Now, here's an interesting thing. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were saying in Singapore, 1 in 10 workers or 1 in 10 jobs, 1 in 10, right? 10% are done by robots.
Absolutely. I mean, I live close to Milton Keynes, and you see robots driving around all the time. On all the little areas, they deliver food and...
Testing?
No, you got robots. No, what they're doing is they're delivering food and vitals, groceries. But it's amazing to see these little robots, and they cross the road and they look left and look right. And
seriously?
Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
Yeah. It's amazing. These little robots
in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, absolutely. Going in between the villages from shops and go and deliver.
Are they sort of humanoid type robots?
No. They're little boxes.
Like R2D2 or something.
Yeah, little boxes. They haven't got a little head on doing that. But actually,
drones, not drones.
No, not drones. They're on the ground. They roll and they come to the curb and they stop and they wait and they have a little look around with their little, and they go across and they deliver your stuff. You pick it up, and if you go and approach them, they'll stop, and I guess someone can look and see what's going on. But
can I just say, could someone please verify what this man is talking about?
They're coming to take him away. They're coming to take him away.
Yes, Milton Keynes been invaded by robots. That's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So what have you got on this?
What I've got is that there's a commercial company, I don't know if I can mention them, but anyway, they've got these tractors, got 6 pairs of cameras, 360-degree view, and they can detect obstacles along the way, calculate distances, and the farmers are going to be the farmers got to take them to the field, but once they can do the job in twice as fast, more accurately.
Do you know what? We're going to need that, Chris, because the programme Clarkson's Farm, I don't know if you watched this, the Jeremy Clarkson programme, and it makes you realise just how hard it is to get people to work in the countryside, at farming, and it's hard graft. So they need some way to get the harvests in and whatever, and this is one way of doing it.
Well, absolutely, and of course, they're much stronger and more efficient than us. The most important thing is that just one person can operate the tractor and allow the tractor to do its good.
Yeah.
And it needs to be fueling, obviously, but actually, it's the way it's going. It's the plus side is you can do twice as much. The downside is it's going to be a real strain on people, resources. People are going to lose their jobs, aren't they?
Absolutely right.
As things get automated.
Yeah, that is the balance. But I didn't realise that robot technology was...
here.
So active.
All over Milton Keynes. All over Milton Keynes.
There you go.
Let's finish on the 50 pence piece. Let's talk money and the Queen.
Yes, well, we're in the Platinum Jubilee year of the Queen this year, 70 years, marvellous anniversary, and hopefully will be celebrated quite highly because it'll be something to celebrate after all the COVID restrictions. And the new coin, the new 50p coin's coming out, which has got a lovely picture of Her Majesty on a horse, because she's had a great love of horses all her life, ridden all her life, very interested in horse racing. And this is going to appear on the head side of the 50p coin, and you are going to be able to buy the special one. But I'm very keen that the Platinum Jubilee is genuinely able to be celebrated all over the United Kingdom, and that children remember it.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember 77, the Silver Jubilee, and it was amazing. We had street parties, there was all this fun and enjoyment. And what I like about that picture is that it's quite clearly the Queen. I mean, just the way she sits on the horse. Yes. In a side saddle. Side saddle. And I thought it was a young Queen, but actually the face is a more mature Queen.
Well, you probably thought it was a robot riding around Milton Keynes.
I'm not going to say what year I can celebrate.
Yeah, no, tell us the coronation.
Lovely. Kate Hoey, lovely to see you. Thank you very much. Chris, always a ray of sunshine. Thank you, my friend. Lovely seeing you as well. Electric vehicle sales soared last year, but the overall market has struggled to recover from the pandemic in terms of car sales. Figures from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders show that more electric cars were registered last year than in the previous 5 years combined. An acute shortage of computer chips, though, means that just 1.6 million new ones were registered in the UK last year, the second worst figure in nearly 30 years. And a commemorative coin has been unveiled, as you were hearing there, by the Royal Mint ahead of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years that is, and it depicts the Queen on horseback, designed by the artist John Bergdahl, first collectible 50p to celebrate a royal event. Right, it's 8:53. You're listening and watching Breakfast here on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
OK, coming up next, we're going to talk about sports. There's only really one sports story in town. It's gone from the back pages to the front pages, of course. Djokovic. He's going to have a shocking weekend now, isn't he, Paul Coit?
I think he'll probably be in luxury, but I don't think he'll be playing much tennis, to be honest with you. I don't know when he's going to go or whether he's going to stick around. You know,
well, he's appealing all of this through the courts, and we'll see what happens. So you could yet see him on a court. But as you were saying, Isabel, how does that impinge on his preparation? Because there's 1 week to go before the tournament starts. And he's hardly going to be out hitting a ball.
Well, exactly. He'll be climbing the walls, I'd imagine, and very, very angry that Scott Morrison stepped in to stop his a special consideration that he thought that he was entitled to. I mean, it's such an interesting debate, this. You know, if he is, for some reason, allowed in, and he's going to be considered, I think, in court on Monday now, you know, does this open the door to similar incidents of people being allowed in against the country's laws?
Well, you know? I think it's probably going to close the doors. I think most people are going to think, well, if I haven't got everything correctly documented and had the right vaccinations, then I'm not going to be able to go. And you know, and it may affect his preparation, but if he's climbing the walls, I'd be raring to go if I was him. This anger would come out.
If you were in the room next door, a lot of these tennis players, they practice by hitting a ball against the wall. Yeah. So they do inside their bedrooms.
Well, they did that last year because so many were kept in the hotel.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to a journalist that was in the same hotel. And he's going, I'm trying to get to sleep. And it was bang, 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 bang. And that was it. It was constant. It was absolutely constant. So I'd be surprised if he manages to
OK, to football fans, whether you support Manchester United or not, a lot of people will be very interesting to hear the leaks that are coming out of Old Trafford about, what would you say, a rift in the camp.
There's been a few of those, hasn't there? You know about that. I mean, if we look back to Sir Alex... So then we had, obviously, David Moyes came in, didn't seem to work. Then we went Louis van Gaal, I'm trying to get the order right. Then Jose Mourinho, there was a rift there, nobody liked him. Ollie came in and seemed that everybody was happy, but now Ollie's been fired. So I just wonder whether it's down to the players. Is this down to an attitude of the players? Because surely... each time it's coming up and it's like, oh, well, it's the manager's fault. We don't like him, let's get rid of him and let's wait for the next
talk and the rumour is, and you know, you can see that you get, you know, one of the best players in the world, if not ever, Cristiano Ronaldo coming in, and that's obviously bound to upset the dynamic of the team because I think, you know, the talk is that he's being favoured, and you could say, why wouldn't he be? He is the best player in the world.
I agree. And I really think it's down to players. If their job is to play alongside Cristiano Ronaldo and he's there to help the team, I think downing tools and then thinking, well, this is not right, it's the manager's fault, it's Cristiano Ronaldo's fault. It's down to players. And now Ralph Rangnick's come in. And this guy's come in and thinking, well, if it works well, then maybe I'll stay the manager. He's in a great position because if it doesn't work for him, this is how I see it. They'll go, well, I'll just go upstairs and I'll oversee the new guy that comes in. So it seems that things are not as good as maybe they should be.
I mean, a lot of this is to do with player power, agent power, social media. Who's doing it right? Who's the type of manager? I mean, I'm thinking of your club, Spurs, and Conte coming in there, and a very strong-willed character. Is he doing it right?
I think he is doing it right, and it's the same as Jurgen Klopp as well. It's a difficult thing, though, isn't it, managing footballers these days? There was the old days when, you look at your Bill Shankleys and the Matt Busbys.
Give them the hairdryer treatment.
Yeah, and probably Sir Alex Ferguson was... It seems it's almost like the kids that are at school, I don't respect this teacher, so I'll do whatever I want. They've got to go in and they've got to play absolutely perfectly. They need to have the respect from the players, which is really important. I've also got to lay down the law because, these are young men that are multi-millionaires and thinking, well, what I've seen players where they don't want to play and think, well, we'll just, I won't bother because I'm not the one that's going to go. It's going to be the manager that goes. So when the new manager comes in, if he suits me, then maybe I'll play, which is ridiculous. It's not good for the fans.
He's a replacement. He's going to be there till the end of the season, but he might be there for good.
He might well be, but as I say, he's got both bases covered because if it doesn't work out for him managing, then he'll move upstairs.
Paul Coit, we have to leave it there. Time is absolutely flying this morning. I know you two could talk about that for a lot longer, but we're almost out of time. Coming up, stay tuned our way because after the break, we will be looking forward to the start of the new season of The Apprentice. It's entering its 16th season, can you believe? And we'll be speaking to the show's first ever winner, Tim Campbell. That's in a moment, but first, here's your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain, courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The Isabel squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption, turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again, some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Coming up to 3 minutes past 9, you're listening to and watching The Breakfast Show here on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
We're on your TV and on your radio. You can find us on DAB+, and if you're watching us at home on the TV, don't forget, wherever you go, you can take us on the radio as you leave the house. Coming up this morning.
We're going to bring you the latest as the European Court of Human Rights is ruling in a case involving a bakery owned by two people who identify as Christians, and they refuse to make a cake with a slogan supporting same-sex marriage.
And for a second year in a row, the Grammys are going to be pushed thanks to the pandemic. We'll take a dive into the day's showbiz news with Hannah Hope from The Sun on Sunday.
Plus, Apprentice star and aide to Lord Sugar, Tim Campbell, he's going to be on the programme to talk about what you can expect this season ahead of his debut tonight on BBC One. We've been talking a lot about Novak Djokovic, the tennis player banned from entering Australia to play in the Australian Open, which happens next week. What are folks saying, Isabel?
Well, this tweet's come in from an anonymous viewer. They said all it does is makes the Australian Open a non-event, and at the same time makes the Australian government look tough. A joke.
It's not an anonymous tweet.
Well, it said on my auto cue, it says anonymous.
Well, people make up such street. There it is. There's the name up there, right? Hey, Jared, whatever. Anyway, and the next one from Opinionated Londoner. Nobody should be above the law. Australians have apparently been in lockdown for long periods. They have had to abide by the laws laid down. Why should Djokovic be an exception? Hannah Hope here now to talk about that and lots more. Is this a case when sport becomes showbiz? Do you think your readers are interested in Djokovic?
Definitely. I mean, it's a landmark situation, and it really has divided opinions. Obviously, people sort of think he should be able to choose whether or not he has the vaccine, but others think he's being really selfish by trying to sort of go ahead and claim that he has medical reasons.
Someone was saying to me that he's like the Lewis Hamilton of tennis, that people just, despite his success, he's the world #1, they just can't warm to him. And I have to say, Federer and Nadal, they're like the playbook of how to be a lovable tennis player. Why is Djokovic perhaps not as popular?
My boyfriend calls him the bad boy of tennis, which is kind of ludicrous, really, because it's not like he's out partying or anything.
Yeah.
But I think this is a bit mean, but he has got an air of arrogance about him, and he's sort of that dark character that maybe we don't see in other tennis players.
Let me tell you this, as a sports reporter for many, many years, and I've covered a lot of events in snooker and darts and football and goodness knows what, but I'll tell you, so many sports people, to be at the top, they have absolutely no personality, right? They literally, and you can see it because when they do have a personality and they socialise, and also they let their guard down and they become fallible. And usually a lot of sports people only really develop a personality after they retire.
Yeah,
when they're looking for a career in media.
I tell you, Chris Akabusi wouldn't have been one of those. So much personality, you couldn't get rid of that, could you? Meghan Markle back in the headlines. She's got some damages after the Mail on Sunday was found to have invaded her privacy. This is over the letters to Daddy.
Indeed. So the judge ruled that, well, the Mail on Sunday could have maybe printed a few paragraphs, printing half the letter, did indeed invade her privacy. She got £1 in damages, but she did actually get an undisclosed sum for copyright infringement. We don't know how much that is. They have promised, her and Prince Harry have promised to donate that to charity. Be interesting if they do that to their own Archwell Foundation. But I think...
Which isn't doing very well, I hear.
No, I think it only made £50,000 last year. And I think that for her, though, just this case really is about principle over pay. So she feels that she's won, and hopefully we can all move on now.
The Grammys, they're not happening at the end of January. Should we be worried about that, or does that deprive you of a lot of copy, a lot of stories?
Well, I mean, it's quite a sad situation for Showbiz events, for the awards season, which is obviously kicking off now. I mean, the Brit Awards are just a week later in the UK. They were due to take place, or they are due to take place on the 8th of Feb at the O2. And I think that the fact that the Grammys has been indefinitely postponed, apparently this has been driven by a lot of the big acts. You've got Billie Eilish, you've got Lil Nas X, big performers who don't want to go and potentially create a super spreader event. I mean, it could spell trouble for us over in the UK when we have the Brit Awards. But it did manage to take place last year in a very stripped down kind of event. I think that it would be a shame if the Brits didn't take place. I think that with the Golden Globes, for example, is going to be an online event this year. We are at risk of losing the kind of fun and frivolity of award season. I mean, just certainly watching a report online of winners. It's very sanitised.
Can we talk about the Kardashians? Obviously, the show finished a while ago now, but it doesn't stop the money-making machine that is the Kardashians. What's Kris Jenner up to now?
So Kris Jenner, a billionaire over in the US, is launching a range of eco-friendly cleaning products called Safely. They don't come cheap. I think a dishcloth will set you back £7.
I bet she's never washed up in her life. Can I just say? I love that she's launching a cleaning line. Like, come on, she's got people who do that.
100% she will. But the eco-friendly cleaning market is going to be hugely successful in the next 5 years. But they are more expensive. Me and my boyfriend often have this argument at home. He gets the eco-friendly ones, I get the cheapos.
Coming up tonight on BBC One is the return of The Apprentice, and very shortly we're going to have Tim Campbell. And Tim Campbell, correct me if I'm wrong, Isabel, he was the first ever winner.
He was the first winner, and he's going to be one of the aides this season.
How come I don't remember him?
It was a long time ago, 16 years ago.
Right, OK. So we're going to find out what it's done for his life, really. So the Apprentice, has it served its purpose, or is it still a good watch?
I watched the premiere, which is on BBC One tonight, and it's brilliant.
Is it?
Lord Sugar is back with all of his puns, lots of pandemic puns. He says, you don't get furloughed, you get fired. I'm immune to BS. And it's all those inane tasks. The contestants are there with their very outlandish claims that they're going to be the new Wolf of Wall Street, and lots of clashing personalities. I think it does exactly what it's meant to do.
But some of the papers yesterday were calling it the new Love Island. The cast all sort of veneers and plumped up lips, boobs and all the rest of it.
Some of the cast are very glamorous, but I think it's evened out with, you know, lots of different personalities and, lots of different kind of... they've got really good experiences, different strengths, and I think it's going to be a good season.
OK.
Well, I'm not going to fire you.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to keep you here. Because if we got Tim Campbell and you're such a fan of the show,
stay.
then stay and have a good chat.
Let's do it.
With him.
hope you stay as well, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, because coming up, we will be looking forward to the start of the new season of The Apprenticeship. As Isabel said, 16th season. So the show's first ever winner, Tim Campbell, after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK, with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain, courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The Isabel squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption, turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning, as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers, and again, some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
We've got some breaking news just literally coming in from the European Court of Human Rights. This is in relation to a man called Gareth Lee. Gareth Lee placed an order for a cake at a bakery in Belfast. His order was accepted, but then the owners, devout Christians,
realised that they were not happy with the slogan on the cake. The slogan on the cake was support gay marriage. Now, Isabel, this has been through every court in the land, now in Europe as well. What have they ruled on this?
Well, you're right. This was actually in 2014, 8 years ago. But this is now, as you say, just come through with a verdict from the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights. And they have said their decision is final. And by a majority, they declare the application inadmissible. So in other words, they are saying that the activist, Mr. Lee, who was trying to overturn the UK Supreme Court, has been unsuccessful. And the couple in Northern Ireland were entitled to refuse to make his cake. So it's an 8-year-long battle that has been going on between this couple who ran a bakery in Northern Ireland. It's been a very, very long period of argument, but it's gone all the way through to the ECHR, and that is their final verdict there.
It is an interesting verdict as well, because, I mean, obviously this couple who run the bakery, they're saying it should be our decision to serve or work for whoever we want. But then there would be tones, because Gareth Lee, he worked for the
Queer Space was the advocacy
yes, that's
group.
Exactly
yes,
the company, yeah, and So this was a member of the LGBT advocacy group Queer Space, but it's like saying, you know, it's almost like apartheid. We will not serve you if you are a certain colour, if you're black or whatever, or in deep South America, South Africa, something like that. But to get a comment on this, get initial reaction to this, we're going to go to Peter Linus now. Peter is director of the Evangelical Alliance. Peter, obviously you will be welcoming the ruling here.
Well, absolutely. And actually, I think it's a good decision for everybody. I think the one thing I want to push into is the comparison with apartheid is a really, really bad one, Eamonn, with respect, in the sense that Mr. Lee had been served there before. He'd bought products at the bakery before. The Supreme Court were really clear. This was nothing to do with Mr. Lee's orientation.
What he believed in. You know, that's the thing, Peter. Once he nailed his colours to the mast, then it was, you know, they weren't doing that.
But they had served him before, and they would serve him again. There's no question about serving him, and the Supreme Court were really clear on this. These facts are incredibly important. What the key came down to is, can you force somebody, in this case a baker, to use their skills to promote a political slogan? And that was really important. The court said that's what this was. Support gay marriage at the time was the campaign in Northern Ireland. It was a political slogan. Everybody agreed that that's what was at play. And the issue was, can you force somebody to produce a political slogan that they disagree with? And ultimately, the Supreme Court said you can't. And that's why people like Peter Thatchell, the gay rights activist, agreed with me on this case. He initially was a bit hesitant, but actually he came out and said, no, we need to support the bakers on this. For everybody's sake, if we can force people to put messages they disagree with, that's a really unhealthy thing in a democratic society. Yeah. So actually, Peter Thatchell and I both agree on this case. We might come from different perspectives, but we all agree this is the right judgment, the right ruling. And the European Court have ultimately said Mr. Lee doesn't have a further appeal. His case is inadmissible. And I do think that's really important, actually. It's a good decision for everyone, because otherwise you could force people to make all sorts of messages they fundamentally disagree with and have to use their skills to do that. And that would be a bad thing. If this was a case saying I'm not going to serve somebody because they're gay, that would be fundamentally wrong, absolutely disgraceful. But it's not that, and that's really important distinction.
And just really briefly on this, because it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter Linus, that the couple, Colin and Karen MacArthur, took a view that they wouldn't put slogans on any cakes, regardless of whether it was, you know, LGBT or any slogan. It wasn't specifically about their Christian faith. It was just anti-slogan. But just so happened that they were Christian.
It's a little bit more complex probably than that over the 8 years, as you've said, this is run. But fundamentally it was, did any slogan that would disagree with their religious beliefs or political beliefs. It's a slightly unique piece of law to Northern Ireland. And I spent many years as a barrister there. So that was one of the key parts of the case. But it comes down to, can you force somebody against their political, religious conscience for any reason? Can you force somebody to print a message they disagree with? And the court said, no, you can't. For anybody, you can't force anybody against their will. And the European Court has now agreed with that. And I think that's ultimately a good decision, actually, for everybody. It's never been about Christians against the LGBT community. It's always been about, can you force somebody against their will to produce a message they disagree with?
Peter Linus, thanks for making that clear. Appreciate it. Thank you. That ruling from the European Court just in. Thank you very much indeed.
Tim Campbell, business executive and aide of Lord Sugar, joins us now. We say good morning to him. And Tim, we're just talking about the show, 16th episode tonight. Did that show change your life, and if so, how?
Hugely, Eamonn. I don't know if there's an issue with the connection, but it was a massive change for me. It's great to see you again. Hello, Isabel. You well?
Hi. Yeah, so tell us your story. You know, obviously you're here, you're part of the panel tonight in the 16th series. It obviously did change your life. Is that the case, though, for everybody that wins The Apprentice?
The great thing about the show in its 16th year now is that altogether the process always allows the best candidates to get to the end. And having won that, I'd obviously say that, but it is true. There's been successful recruitment businesses, fashion businesses, bakeries, you name it. The whole raft of businesses have been successfully supported by Lord Sugar, who's actually invested millions in successful companies.
Right, now we're going to explain your role to people now in the new series. Hannah Hope from the Sun on Sunday here, who's their entertainment editor. Tell us about Tim now and his role in the show.
So Lord Sugar obviously has two very important aides. We've got Karen Brady and Claude Littner, who usually sits alongside Lord Sugar, unfortunately had a bike accident. So Tim Campbell was able to swoop in and save the day.
There you are.
Oh, big boots to fill, Tim. How are you feeling about that?
Excited. It's great to be part of a franchise that's gone on so long. And actually, when you think about lots of conversations that are happening now about inclusion and diversity, Apprentice back 17 years when I was on it, a long time ago, always started out with an equal starting field of men versus women. It was always about the best candidate succeeding, and it was about output rather than how glamorous everything was. And that's really been a mainstay of the actual show, which is why it's been so long in the public consciousness and something that people have really been desperate to get back after having a year off after COVID.
Well, Hannah has had a preview of that first show, is what Tim's saying. Is that? Would you agree with that?
100%. I do think that they all have brilliant acumen in their own rights. Tim, did you have to break up any fights, I want to know, backstage?
Thankfully, they weren't worried about me fighting. They were worried about impressing Lord Sugar, because the reality for us as advisors, both Baroness Brady and myself, taking over from Claude, and it's great to know that Claude's making a full recovery. So enough love to you, Claude. Happy New Year. Is that all the candidates were trying to impress Lord Sugar. And our roles as advisors was just to make sure we could feed back the information to Lord Sugar so he could ultimately make the decision. And we all know about that magic finger. I can't even put it up. It's not allowed. But it's all we know about that magic finger.
Just to take you back, watching this year's contestants, to the sort of stress that you're put under, because it's unbelievable stress the poor apprentices are put under, and the scrutiny and the knowing looks. I mean, we've been practising that sort of beard stroking, like headmasterly look. I mean, I just shiver at the thought. It's horrid, isn't it?
Isabel, you're ready for the next series. I can see
no
you
thanks.
on the show now. I can see it. Eamonn, you might lose your co-presenter. You might have to go out hunting for a new co-presenter yourself. But no, it is about the stress. And I think, as was said by your journalist there, having watched the actual show, you'll see some of the interesting things that they come up with in the first episode as we go on the cruise ship. So tonight, Thursday at 9 p.m, you'll see the candidates under a lot of stress trying to come up with an advertising campaign for a cruise ship. It's an amazing show, and it's great to be back.
How much did COVID impinge on what you had to do?
Well, Eamonn, you know how it is. The British spirit's really important. COVID has been devastating for lots of people, lots of industries, and lots of families. It disrupted our family. We caught COVID just before Christmas and disrupted lots of our Christmas celebration. But you know what? The great thing about Britain is that we overcome these things, just as we had to do with The Apprentice. The amazing crew led by Paul Broadbent and the team at Naked and the BBC collaboration all made sure that we were safe. All the COVID measures were in place, and we were able to return a great television show in The Apprentice back to the screens tonight at 9 p.m.
Just give me the gossip about Sir Alan Sugar. You see what he's like on Twitter, you see what he's like on the show. He can be quite terrifying. Do you still feel that kind of fear of him, even when you're sitting beside him as his wingman?
Well, Isabel, be careful. Don't demote him. You'll get another finger if you demote him. He's now Lord, of course, right?
Of course.
So essentially, Lord Sugar is on top form. I think lots of people really tune into the engagement that he has in the boardroom with contestants who may feel that they have one up on him or they've got a new way of impressing him, but he's been there, seen it, and he's got all the accolades to prove it. It's great to be able to watch him have that repertoire with candidates and see the back and forth. And myself and Baroness Brady are just watching it unfold in the boardroom, and I can't wait for you to see it as well.
Well,
can't wait.
Good. Welcome back to the box anyway, Tim. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Full of enthusiasm for that. If you're going to watch it, it's 9 o'clock tonight. It is on BBC One. Hannah Hope, thank you very much indeed. You're giving it the thumbs up. It'll be one for you to watch.
100%, definitely.
100%, yeah,
Good
very
stuff,
good.
Hannah Hope. Lovely to have you with us. Do stay tuned here on GB News. Lots more coming your way. But that's it from Eamonn and from me. Have a lovely Thursday. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good morning. Starry skies last night led to tumbling temperatures. If you've not been out and you're just heading out for the car, take an ice scraper with you. Frosty start and then wet weather moving in across the UK with some snow likely today over the hills across northern Britain, courtesy of this set of weather fronts already approaching Northern Ireland. The Isabel squeezing together as well. Quite windy along western coasts and wet with snow in the hills across Northern Ireland. And as this band of wet weather then hits the hills of North Wales, there'll be snow here too. And Northern England, Scotland, some of the higher routes here, not very pleasant for a time through the middle of the day. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Could cause some travel disruption. Turning more back to rain. Certainly mostly rain at low levels, and particularly across the southwest, where it will actually eventually turn quite mild. But for most, another pretty cold feeling day, especially with that wind. The rain not getting to East Anglia in the southeast until quite late today, but through the evening rush hour, certainly damp conditions likely here. And then we see more showers coming into the northwest, turning more and more wintry again. Again, snow mostly over hills, but some sleet and hail at low levels could lead to some icy conditions through the night and into Friday morning, as temperatures don't fall quite as low as last night, but still close to freezing in most towns and cities. So we have another Met Office yellow warning for the snow and ice continuing over northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland during Friday morning. Again, some hazardous travelling conditions. Elsewhere, there will be a few scattered showers and again, some hail and sleet is possible. But for much of tomorrow, most of southern Britain, eastern Britain, dry and fine with sunny spells. It's the north and west where we'll keep those wintry showers going. Again, a pretty chilly feeling day, 3 or 4 at best. Add on that breeze and it feels colder than that. So just a reminder, we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for the next couple of days for snow and ice. See the Met Office website for more details.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.